Welcome to the AEX Late Night Show, episode numero 4. I was about to say a French numero, so I'm glad I switched to English. We're having a blast. I don't know what party this is. We're on I can't even keep track, but it's great to have all these people here from Acapulco having a blast, drinking, smoking weed, talking about anarchy.
Yeah, we have a full studio audience tonight, and I can barely even hear myself.
Be quiet either. These are great microphones, so don't worry about it. They can hear what we're saying about.
Am I loud enough? Can't understand the words that are coming out of your mouth.
I wish I had a camera facing the audience. I need to have an audience cam. I mean, I just need an extra wire and I could live stream it in.
Yeah, so we didn't do a show yesterday, but we took a break and you know, we're about to transition into the full blown
Acapulco. Yeah, we're jumping into the hotel tomorrow, and in fact, after some logistics planning, we're going to continue this live stream from our hotel room at Acapulco.
Yeah.
So if you see us at the conference and you want to be sitting in the live audience and maybe even sit in and do an interview, just find us and come to our room around 10 o'clock. Every night we'll be there. And it'll be a lot easier than packing it all up into a pickup truck and driving it up the hill, up the mountain every day.
Amen.
So yeah, it's going to be cool. We were at the Princess the past 2 days. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had we've had the first 2 days of Acapulco so far, the latest version, 2020, and I mean we're finally starting to see a lot of our friends and so forth and make those connections again. And my God, already I feel something amazing is happening, because a lot of the people that I've met, like Ryan here, for example, is kind of a connection between another person that I met, and
the spontaneous order is so next
but
level.
There's like multiple years of things going on where people are connecting, but then they're connecting to other people. And they're saying, "Oh, you do this? Oh man, I know the guy that does that."
It's so wild. And then all these people are kind of migrating to our little group. We have an Acapulco 300 or an Acapulco 24/7 365 group chat on Telegram. If you find that out, that's kind of where we're kind of in the scoop, like in real time, announcing new developments as they happen. Like for example, tonight we kind of just decided to do during the day because the enthusiasm was there, everybody was around, people were looking to do things, and since we have the venue to provide, we're like, yeah, let's go out the house afterwards. We had a great day at the Princess. There was like dancing in the lobby. There was like beautiful, dancers with their awesome little costumes and routines. It was so cool, man. Love the culture down here.
Yeah, and just we've got 8-9 people here, and I think the stories from this 8 or 9 people is probably worth it's probably got a couple volumes of books. Seriously. Just out of this story, just out of these group of people here.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a few of them, Jason being one of them, having a crazy story about what happened to John and Lily last year and how he literally lived that.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's willing to share some of that and
yeah.
how anarchy actually, would work in a society that has, criminal elements to it. You know what I mean? So these are some of the darker things we don't like to think about, but as we've seen, it's something that needs to be addressed in order for us to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing that we're kind of doing something every night. At least this is something I'm doing, where I'm kind of bringing people together at the end of the day. We're having a little discussion. Oh shit!
Party foul.
We'll probably got a broom to take care of that. But shoot, what was I saying?
Organizing at the end of the day and all of the people.
Yeah, so we had a little discussion today, and yesterday it was just a few people, and today it's like 12 people. We had one of the main speakers there. I mean, it's just amazing how quickly a good idea can transition into something more.
Something with its own life force and its own self-organizing properties, it's beautiful to see it sort of have a life of its own and just sort of facilitate the ins and outs and stuff like that.
But I think one of the things is that people are really starting to get to the realization that, my God, it is just something that we do decide to do.
Yeah.
And if we do it, we practice what we're preaching.
It's just a decision.
A
lot of things
it'll
in life
happen.
are just a conscious choice to do them. And then the rest of the stuff sort of kind of flows in as a result of that courage, that bravery, and the energy you're putting out into the universe. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So with that said, I am going to try and find your next guest.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with a brand new guest very soon. Stay tuned.
Check. 1, 2. All right, let's crash this motherfucker, buddy. Can someone go into the event and turn off the music? Anyone?
Someone please, Sonny, go
All right, let's go. All right, listen up. So, all you gotta do is wave your arms uncontrollably and smile at everybody in the place, okay? Don't put that speaker in
drop the
freaking-
speaker!
All right, let's go.
Bring them out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. Bring 'em out.
Come alive from the VIP, heard the nightlife, lost life, what I need, holy shit, in the state, wanna see my need, the whole city got this, heard he got 3, that's a nigga gotta hit me, shout he not out, who's that city on the 5, soon as he got free, the king back now, hold on, you know how to act now, hit the blue strippers, getting nigga, boy, back down, still ballin', money stacks, all the shack now, still push a button, and let them on the back down, I'm on the road doing shows, through my back down, Mississippi, the city, Albuquerque, the chat time, get the crowd getting got rich and I'm still on some hooligan shit. You be rapping by flow, I was moving the shit. You talk about shooting out, now we're doing the shit. If I hit you in the face, you gon' be suing the shit. And if I catch another case, I know it's true to be missed, so I'ma keep cool and stay out of
Pardon our interruption. We will now leave the premise.
Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now.
Yeah, man.
All right, we're back on the air, and I have Jason Henza with me, and I couldn't be more excited to talk to you, man, because you have one of the most incredible stories and a bunch of other interesting things to talk about relating to this community in Acapulco and anarchy at large. So let's start out with a documentary that's being made that started out as like just kind of like a loose thing, but now because of the events that took place with you guys, has now evolved into something bigger. The documentary is called Stateless. Can you tell us who's making it and how you're sort of involved with it?
Oh, yeah. So Bird Burmer Studios and Todd and Kim, a couple really decent people, are making the documentary. And
Sick.
they were following this community around for about 3 years. And I had no intention on being...
The documentary?
Yeah, being in anything or doing podcasts and being a voice in liberty, none of that shit.
You just enjoyed the vibes, right? You just wanted to hang with the tribe?
Sort of. I wasn't a real viber, if that made sense. I was more of just a guy who wanted to experience other like-minded people, but the whole vibe thing to me is like a wave of mania that these people are trying to get higher and higher and higher, and
It's so awesome. You're really gonna love it.
Yeah.
We promise. Just show up.
And for me, I'm just more of like a balanced guy. I don't want to ride that wave of mania to prosperity or anything. Like.
I feel you, brother. I feel you. Yeah, like today, I feel like my interactions were sort of on that level. I was at the pre-retreat in Acapulco pre-retreat, and Becca Zagani was amazing in this like tantra workshop that she did, and it was super intimate. It was like less than 10 people, pretty much. And yeah, that was so much more of an experience than like like a crazy rave or something or whatever they're trying to go towards. It was like that sort of like mentality, like turn this into a giant festival rather than like the root of it all, which was a community that celebrated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how I guess where is the documentary as far as like shooting and stuff like that? Do you know?
Well, it seems like it's never ending. They've been doing it for 3 years.
Trust me, bro. Documentaries take long, as we find. And I just made one recently, and it's people. It takes forever, and people are so impatient. On top of it, it's funny.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's been quite a roller coaster. I was shot last year about this time.
Do you want to tell that story for anybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, pretty much. One day out of the blue, 6 men came up to the house and started throwing rocks at the house, and we stepped out of the house. And
When you say we, who's we?
Me, John, and Lily. John came first. I was 15 yards behind him. Lily was 15 yards behind me. The way we always staggered to leave a house to go say hello to somebody. It's just how things work there. It's why John liked it that way. So that's how we did it. So John just stepped out, and it was a perfectly normal day. Nothing to expect. Just some angry kids throwing rocks. We just thought we'd go say hi, and suddenly John steps out of the gate, and a ton of pops happen, and like I'm getting hit, and I'm watching John kind of pop up and just collapse. Ugh. And I'm getting hit like crazy, and I run back, and I'm still getting hit, and I crawl under the truck, and I feel a bullet go through my knee. Oh. So then I roll out the other side, and as I get out the other side, I found Prosperity right behind a tire, and I think I'm all safe, and a bullet comes through the truck and hits me right in the chest. Oh. And then I give out this like really loud scream, and Lily thought I was dead. The shooters thought I was dead. So the shooting had stopped, and they stopped, and they started walking up the hill to come kill me. And I was laying on the ground, and my arm was just completely dead. I was like just scared my arm was dead. So it wasn't moving, couldn't move it, nothing like that. Wow. And I was rolling around, and I saw these guys down the hill, and I thought to myself, I'm not dying here. And I popped up, and I ran inside. I jumped over a chair. I jumped over a chicken cage.
Wow. Talk about adrenaline. You're like bleeding out while this is happening too, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm pretty balanced. You know what I mean? Dude gets up, he's like losing all of his blood doing fucking parkour back into the house.
Yeah, it was quite crazy about what I was able to do,
Why do you think you had such a will to live? Where did that come from?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. It was part fear of having my family mourn for me and having everybody mourn.
Wow.
I didn't want people to mourn. And then the other part was not wanting to give in to the person who called in to hit. And I just have that competitive spirit where I just won't quit.
That fighter, that warrior spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
I relate
So,
to that, my friend.
Yeah, it was kind of a combination of both that I just wasn't giving up. And, you know, I jumped up.
Dude, really gotta commend you on that, bro. For real. That's some fucking badass shit, dude. That's like what all men should strive to embody, is that sort of like fearless masculine where like literally you could be like dying, like straight up dying, and your will to continue for your loved ones drives you onward. That's deep, my friend.
Yeah, I didn't even like think about it. It's just I think just some people are, and some people, you know, are all different, you know.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I was wired, I guess, you know.
That's amazing, man, because I know you ran back in the house and did a lot to make sure that Lily was okay. And then why don't you tell the story about how you ended up not dying, because it's kind of interesting how you SOS'd, kind of.
Yeah, so it was amazing. I jumped up and I start running towards the house, and you would expect someone to slam the door shut, you know, and save their own life. Lily left that door open. And I was able to get inside and slam that steel door shut, and those guys couldn't get through the door.
Wow. She basically, like, even though she didn't know, she was willing to die just in case one of you guys made it.
Yeah, and totally saved my life. Like that right there was a moment that saved my life.
Wow.
And then I knock on the door, and she's like, nothing. You know, I just
'Cause she
hear like
thinks
little
you might
cries.
be-
I'm like, it's Henza, Lily, let me in. And then she opened up the door, and she's crying. She says, what happened? And I said, John's dead. I'm going to die. I'll make sure you live. And then I did my best to quiet her down because she was wailing pretty loud. And we sat down, you know, and I said, okay. And I started to do an assessment on how much damage I had, because I felt like I was hit a lot. And what was really hitting me was just the cement driveway breaking apart as the wall of bullets were coming at me. So, like, the cement was getting hit all around me, and it was just kind of splintering all over the place.
Ow.
Yeah, so that was hitting me, and I thought those were bullets. I really felt like I was getting hit a lot, and I was only hit 3 times.
Oh, okay. So you couldn't tell in the fastness what was bullets and what was the concrete exploding?
Exactly, yeah. I really didn't know what was happening, so, like,
Oh, my fucking God,
it was
dude.
absolutely blinding.
I've had some war stories, but nothing like that,
Yeah.
bro. That's some next level shit. So you're in the room with Lily. You think you're going to die. Then what happens?
And then Lily says, no, I can't let you die. I can't let you die. I got to get you out of here. So she's looking for a pathway to get out. And then she's talking about going outside. I said, no, you can't go outside.
No, yeah.
And she's like, I have to do something. You're not going to die until. I said, you can't go out there. So I'm not going to let you face those men.
Yeah.
And then I said, if you're going to do anything, and she just wouldn't sit still. I said, if you're going to do anything, crawl up on the roof and crawl to the edge and look around, see if you could see anything. Mm-hmm. And she says, I don't see anything. And I said, they're still probably out there waiting to ambush us and take us all out.
Yeah.
And, you know, she came back in. She didn't know what to do. And then that was the moment, like, she had her broken phone in her hand. She realized she couldn't call for help.
Ugh.
And there's nothing that she could do. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, trying to call my family on my phone to say goodbye, you know. I'm like, well, Lily, my phone still works. Why don't you use my phone? And she went Facebook Live to call help. And then a neighbor saw it down the way.
Who was that?
His name was Malix.
I met him last year.
Yeah. He a very nice man.
Just a calm, quaint guy from like a small town, right?
Yeah.
He told me the story how he ended up in Acapulco too. He was like in some town that was like not doing anything for him, and his buddy like bought him like a one-way ticket to Acapulco.
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
because of that weird circumstances, he just happened to make his way down from wherever the fucking U.S. he was to that side of the mountain and see that Facebook Live in time to eventually come pick you up, right?
Yeah, so like he saw the video and started sprinting up the hill because he didn't live very far, like 500 yards, and it's a really steep mountain. So
Yeah,
as he's sprinting up the hill, he caught a collectivo, and the collectivo took him up the rest of the way to the house, and then we hear this faint hello. And Lily goes, "Oh my God, it's Malix! Malix!" He's like, "Yeah," like. And it's a war zone out there. There's blood all over the place.
And
I mean, my blood splattered everywhere, all over the driveway. John's laying dead in the driveway. Like, the poor guy went into shock. Like, he did his best. He tried driving us down the hill, and it was too late. He was already in shock. Halfway down, we had to switch drivers, and Lily drove the rest of the way.
Wow. So then the three of you got you to the hospital?
Yeah, and they got me to the hospital, and the hospital was a total mess. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, not to blame the hospital, but sometimes when you see a free market, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So we get to the hospital and I have to walk up 3 flights of stairs. Like, I walked my butt to the car, so like, why not walk up 3 flights of stairs?
Just one last. You did parkour. You made it all the way to the hospital. Now one last little set of steps, and you'll be done.
And that wasn't even close. But I walked up all these stairs, and then they finally brought out a wheelchair for me to sit in.
Oh no.
And the first thing they're doing is asking for money. And I handed up the wadded cash, a blooded cash in my pocket, and handed it to them. They took it. That was like 6,000 pesos.
What?
Yeah, they took that, and then they said, then they started doing X-rays and stuff on me and stuff like that, and taking my blood, and then they wanted more money. And I was like, okay, so I handed them a credit card, and they said this one's declined. So I handed them another credit card. They said this one isn't working, and I'm like. And I kind of glance over at Malix, and Malix is just, he's not in the room anymore. He's totally lost it. His hands are shaking. Just everything's going. He's trying to talk to my family and calm them down and everything. He's just not there.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I got to trust this guy to go get money. And in comes my buddy Doug. And Doug steps in, and I'm just like, I didn't know this guy. I'm like, who the hell are you? He's like, I'm Doug. I'm here to make sure you don't die today.
Wow.
Like
a guardian angel.
And he says, go ahead and work on him. I got the money. And they're like, yeah. And they're like, yeah.
Wow.
And so then they started working on me, and I had to convince them because they didn't want to work on bullet holes. So I had to convince the doctors and stuff like that.
You had to actually, after you gave them all that money, you still
Yeah.
had to convince them to do the job?
Yeah. And it wasn't, they didn't want to, do anything to me until after they got the IV in me. They checked the blood, made sure my blood was clean and all that kind of stuff. And,
I see.
And then they were just like, we don't work on bullet holes. We're going to have to send you to a different hospital. We don't do that. And I had to kind of convince them to come around and say, well, why don't you make an exception?
Yeah, this seems like a good chance to
Yeah,
like,
it saved my life today. You know what I mean?
I could really use it. We really need this. Jesus. So let's give this guy Doug a shout out. What's his name?
Doug Barberry?
Doug Barberry?
Yeah.
Is he here this year by any chance?
Hell yeah, he's here.
All right, cool. He's got to get on the show because he's got to get a fucking serious kudos. Like, the world needs to see that, man. That's fucking crazy.
Hell
It's
yeah.
cool how, in the face of all this, though, the community did somehow manage to come together to like get what needed to be happening to get you saved.
There were some real heroes in the moment, including the guy that just was on here just a little earlier. He gave us a night of refuge right afterwards.
Wow.
But I'll probably get to that in a minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's keep going.
But yeah, so they're working on me, and Mike just loses it, and he can't talk on the phone anymore. So I say, Malix.
Oh, Malix.
And so then I start talking to my family, and then I'm talking to tons of people, and then people are calling me and then texting me, and I'm just talking while they're doing surgery on me and stuff like that. And, everybody saw my demeanor. That was pretty much how I responded to the situation. I was very much a very calm individual under that kind of pressure, I guess. And
Wow.
It didn't bother me too much. I was just thinking about surviving. So
Wow.
and then keeping my family calm and everybody else calm and stuff like that.
Dude, that is some serious like fucking Taoist discipline right there, man. Like, in that sort of a high stakes situation while your body is under that much injury and you got doctors trying to extort you and not actually fix your body.
Surprisingly, the doctors weren't really extorting. They were just doing the regular business practices here in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty typical that people can't afford to pay, so they got to make sure they secure that payment. Otherwise, they'll screw up the whole hospital and the payment system and everything like that. So
there's no giant like conglomerate that makes sure everything's paid for by like Illuminati money down here.
yeah, absolutely. So it was kind of funny because I was just so calm and I'm screaming at people. I'm screaming at some friends, don't go up and get John's body. Like, we're going to go take a team up there and take care of everything. Just leave it alone.
Wow.
Stay away. We'll do it ourselves. But, the community, they really tried really hard, and they did help out, and that ultimately brought the police to the property, and then they stole everything from Lily after John was
cops
murdered.
did?
Yeah.
Fucking, are you kidding me?
Well, that's the state,
Yeah.
like either the state would have confiscated it in the United States, or a poorer state would just confiscate it and take it home. But either way, she was losing that stuff just because of a couple of plants that were in the driveway or whatever.
Oh my God! Yeah, a couple of weeds.
Yep.
That's insane. Sorry. So, when were you eventually stabilized?
I don't know.
It was a blur.
Yeah. Well, they weren't able to stop the bleeding in my chest.
Jesus.
And I'm talking to my mom, and there's over 100 cops at the building, and it was an insane scene. Like, there were military cops, and they were completely surrounding the entire building. They were in the surgery room and stuff like that. I'm talking to them, and I'm trying to explain the situation. I was under a lot of stress, and I really wasn't focusing.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so, like, I wouldn't sign the statement that I said, but I was talking to them about Paul and things that were happening in the
Do you want to
community.
maybe touch on who Paul is and how that's connected to the situation?
Yeah, Paul was a community member. He gave the shirt off your back, a really fun guy. Like,
I met him. He was the first person I met when I came here, and he sold me a
Yeah.
bunch of crazy drugs.
He was a walking party. That's what Paul was.
Yes.
He was a walking party.
For real, rest his soul.
Yeah, and he's a ex-military vet who suffered from PTSD and had substance abuse issues, and eventually he had impasses in his head. If you weren't his friend, you were an enemy combatant.
Like that hardcore, like sort of jarhead mentality.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Damn, what a shame. So I guess
And
once he felt like you guys were on his bad side, he became public
Yeah.
enemy number one.
yeah, we became his enemy, and then it escalated, and it eventually turned to men coming up the hill and bullets. And it's sad that happened, right? Like
awful that
it's
happened.
sad that it goes that far, and that someone was so hurt, that
Someone had to lose their
that
life.
they feel it like they needed to kill somebody else, type of stuff. But there are circumstances that led to that, and Paul's not evil. You know
Wow,
what I mean?
that's really incredible that you can say that in lieu of everything that happened. A lot of people would harbor a lot of resentment
Yeah.
towards someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a total possibility. But I have a responsibility to freedom that I want to build successes towards the future. So I have to find a path that society may want to follow in the future, and blaze that trail. And carrying bitterness and hatred and not being able to find my way through it with other people, no one wants to do that.
Yeah, that's not going to lead anybody into a better way of life.
Absolutely.
Wow, man, I must commend you on just the absolute, just the nobleness that I'm sensing from your experiences and what you're going through and what you're doing, man. Like, what a fucking warrior, for real. Like, can we just give this dude a round of applause for, all this fucking... Seriously. Fucking amazing that you survived, an amazing story that you were able to, help Lily. And then, obviously, so after this, once you, survived physically, there was still a lot more to deal with after this, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a whirlwind. So I just told the doctor, just do whatever you can, get this thing stopped bleeding. I told the police that I'm gonna stay the night in the hospital. They can all go away in a very polite manner, and they all left, all of them.
Wow.
All 200 cops or however many were there.
My God.
It was crazy. It was an insane scene. I think they brought the whole force out, including the military, everybody.
Jesus.
Yeah, and they all went away when I asked.
That's crazy. That does not happen in the States.
No, it does not happen in the States. And then my frustration, anger, and determination, I said, I'm not going to lay in the hospital. I'm like, fuck this. I go, all right, well, write me the prescriptions I need. I'm leaving.
Wow.
And they all kind of looked, and they're just like, what? I'm like, I'm going to go home.
So you went home that night?
Yeah. I walked out 6 hours later.
Get the fuck out of here. And so they patched up your knee, they patched up your arm, and then you still have the bullet in your chest, right?
Yeah, I still have the bullet in my chest. My arm wasn't working at all. It was just kind of like this, and I would cross
Did it
my
destroy
chest.
your chest muscle, your pec?
Yeah, it tore through my pec and sat in a nerve cluster somewhere in my shoulder.
Does that ever hurt? Do you ever get any weird?
I never felt any pain.
Wow, interesting. Well, that's fucking nuts. So you got a souvenir out of all that, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus, wow, man. So then, after you get out of the hospital, then what? Because that sort of put Lily in a precarious position, right?
Lily had disappeared. Had no idea where she was, and it took a while to track her down. So then
Why
I
did she
walked
disappear?
well, she had my car.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, we're nothing but blood all over the passenger seat.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
looking like a
that's-
total bad scene in that car. And yeah, Lily has her own awesome story and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you know, I just kind of walked down to Costera, and Doug and Malix were, you know, having fun with it, taking pictures and videos and posting it to the Telegram groups and stuff like that.
You survived. What a crazy.
Yeah,
motherfucker.
and people were like, how do you get shot and walk out of the hospital 6 hours later? And I was just like, I was just pissed, man. Like,
You're like, I did not sign up for this today. This is not what I wanted to happen.
yeah, exactly. So we located Lily, and it just so happens she was here. And
At where we're at right now?
where we're at right now. And I came straight up and, came straight to her. And we had a private moment together and mourned a little bit. And then, just hung out, we're quiet. And then we decided it was best to move on. So then we house hopped for quite some time, just hiding from the police because Lily's a fugitive.
Yeah, she was running from medical marijuana charges in America, right?
Yeah, and she didn't want to get deported and then go straight to jail for 20 years.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, she's not looking to lose.
So yeah, her
part of life.
situation was like face that or, deal with, any leftover Mexican drama.
Yeah, and so I just kept borrowing money and floating, just trying to get through all this stuff. And luckily, a few people in the community sent us some money. We know exactly who you are, and we greatly appreciate you out there, who helped us. We had to pay fees to get our name off the police report and get the landlady her house back. Ultimately, it was a very expensive property up on that hill that they were renting, and it was, that lady's whole world. She had built that house to die in.
Wow.
And so we used the money to help it get her back, the property.
Wow.
And
So
we don't know if it was
seize it or something?
Yeah, they seized it
Jesus.
because of, Lily needed cannabis to treat her nerve issue in her jaw.
Yeah.
And that was John's solution, was to
Grow his own stuff.
make concentrate for so that way they can get real heavy hit so she can deal with all the pain that she was dealing with.
This is such a shame that this is all the result of this insane drug war that is making situations like this where people literally are fugitives in their own country, hiding out in other countries, making plant medicines for themselves and risking being killed by cartels simply to treat medical issues with the natural plants.
It's convenient to blame the cartel.
It is.
But realistically, the simple explanation is that an angry man on his payday paid a bunch of men to come up the hill and shoot us. That's easy, especially a guy who was already threatening us for 5 straight months.
And
every
for anybody
day.
who doesn't know Paul proper, I know him personally. I follow him on Facebook. Definitely a very mentally unstable individual. You mentioned he might have had PTSD from his
Definitely
Army
has
days,
PTSD.
which that would result in this sort of irrationality and
He
violence.
was a suffering person. He's not evil. I don't want people to go into this thinking he's evil. He's just suffering. He was just a person. Family. He had family that loved him and raised him, and he's like any one of us who maybe have lost control over something. So,
Wow. That's it.
And he did get military help, and it didn't work out so well.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
getting to that state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely, the military was played a big role in his mentality.
His mental schisms.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So, and then essentially what happened was the people who were making Stateless got wind of all this, right?
Yeah, Stateless was already not. Did they only get wind of it? They were actively following John and Lily around.
Before this?
Yes, for
Interesting.
3 years. Wow. They've been doing this for 3 years. This was going into the 3rd year when the murder happened. So they have all this footage of the entire community, including John and Lily and all that stuff.
And then the story progresses the way that it did.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the on the run stuff and all the crazy stuff me and Lily did, the police chases and the running border checkpoints and stuff like that. Not border checkpoints. I'm the
This
only one
is
who does
probably
that.
going to be the most riveting fucking film that was ever created, man.
Well, I don't know how riveting we are,
Dude, are you kidding me? You just parkoured with 50 bullet holes into a fucking hospital and then got out the same night and then walked back and was making joking Facebook Live videos about it.
I mean, it could capture, it could capture the imagination a little bit, but I just see us as just some average people going through a tragedy,
Well, that's the thing. I think an average person going through a tragedy can display such strength, and that's a testament to the power of the human spirit,
Yeah.
And it's awesome that you can show an example of that, both in the moment to be the warrior, but then after all this, and then show that compassion towards Paul, even, despite what he did.
Everybody's important. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Everybody matters. Everybody has value, and some people are just really broken. And we as anarchists, we actually can't solve that issue because we're so small. We don't have a huge community. Like society has built up all these systems through coercion and stuff like that, and these support systems. And unfortunately, they are important at this moment in time. Like we are not ready, I don't believe.
Well, that's why they
As a
exist,
group,
right?
yeah.
They exist because we're not ready.
Yeah, we're not ready to solve that issue yet. Like right now, we're still we're in our adolescent phase. We're still trying to figure out how to socialize with each other back in high
Without
school.
making each other upset.
And we have faced years and years of social conditioning of, media, programming, school, everything in our life has conditioned us to fear and hate and use all these negative emotions to apply to our actions in our lives. And we haven't found where our strength comes from yet, and usually comes from virtues.
Yeah. It comes from that sort of like inner compass that that you just feel when something is right and when it's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can tune yourself into that, that's gonna be a good sort of like guiding force in your life.
Yeah, as long as you're doing it in a balanced way.
Exactly.
Like you don't get too imbalanced on the whole situation, and some people can get very imbalanced and just crash.
Yeah.
And that's where the mental instability comes from, and that's where I have concerns about people.
Total freedom and total anarchy because of these beasts being let out of the closet, essentially.
Yeah, and when I first got here, I heard people talk about they're changing the world through a party and blockchain. And I was stunned that was their thought process for a minute, and I'm like, that's not reality. Like, we're not doing that.
Yeah, those are some fun things the blockchain has its purpose, and the partying also has its purpose. I mean, me and Jock talk about human connection building, but yeah, like, just those things alone ain't gonna get the job done.
And I was kind of shocked when I was, kind of witnessing this as I'm sitting on sides, like, we're not even that important. No one really gives a crap about us, like most of the time they just make fun of us. As a matter of fact, like, that's what we got from this servile society is, they literally celebrated and made fun that my friend was murdered and I was shot.
Because you guys are some crazy anarchists in Mexico, right?
Because we don't fit their subjective morality system. We're very uncomfortable under coercion.
Yeah.
And we're very sensitive to it, of the systems that they built, and we're a failure in their eyes. So therefore, when we fail, they can celebrate and revel in that fact.
I see.
And we do it too, believe it or not.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
everybody
we do it
does
too. Yeah, and like typically I try not to, but I do sometimes.
It's the destructive
unfortunately.
side of the ego. We all have that like destructive side to our personalities that I believe, the goal is to make that side conscious so that it doesn't come out in dark ways like, in Paul's case and in other people's cases.
Yeah.
I think that is a worthy pursuit for people who want to see true anarchy. We're going to have to work through all of the demons, and I'm being very literal when I say demons, that are inside of us. Because otherwise, they're going to run amok. Like, essentially what we have now is we have, like, a demon cartel. Like the big bad demons are keeping all the little dumb demons in check. So we want to get rid of the big bad demons, but if we do, we still got all the little fucking crazy gremlins running around.
Yeah, and it does create a very chaotic situation. So eliminating the government tomorrow maybe not be the best solution.
Exactly.
But, I believe that we ourselves, like, if we stride towards building our own successes, maybe society will look at us and say, that's a pretty good idea. Sort of like what we did with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
They're starting to catch on, and, like, maybe they're onto something here. We'll dabble in a little bit. Hey, this thing really works. It's kind of cool. It's like, maybe we can adapt the banking system to this. Maybe we could adapt, the stock market to it, and maybe we can adapt property transfers to it and everything else that we're doing in the world. And they're thinking maybe at this moment. They're still watching and waiting how we progress and we build those things for the future for them to follow.
Wow. Well, even so, though, that's some progress going from, like, literally a pipe dream and some email chains to, like, now the maybe of, like, the mainstream financial system.
Absolutely. And in everything we do, we have to remember that the world is watching. and they're waiting for that success. They're waiting for us to build that success.
They're almost, yeah, it's like everybody's waiting for us to just get our fucking acts together.
Yeah, like they want freedom, but they're too scared of it because of what all the costs of freedom behind it.
Yeah, they don't know if they're willing to pay the price.
Yeah,
Which,
exactly.
like as you have demonstrated, sometimes it can be hefty in certain situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to be strong enough to withstand and be a good steward of freedom. You know what I mean?
That's a great word to use, a steward, sort of like a guide of it. That's amazing, man. So do you find that like leading by example is sort of like the typical way to sort of get that vibe?
That was the only way. To
I
talk
agree.
about it and share ideas, we're just idealists at that point. We just have an idea, but to practice it and to show examples of successes, that is our only path to prosperity.
Wow. That's beautiful, man. I couldn't agree more. I'm really glad you didn't die. For real. Like, you have a lot to share with the world. You have a great gift, man. And it's good that you're still on this earth plane because I feel like there's a lot more people who could. I mean, myself, I'm absolutely pleased to have been sort of like bestowed with this sort of like opportunity to just see into a person like you and
Yeah.
hear your story and just experience it with you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And you think about that. Think about how many people you're going to get to do that to because you had the balls to do that triple front flip over the chair to get into the house.
That's a little exaggeration.
I know,
you
I'm gonna take it to another level each time. Next time it's gonna be a McTwist. You're gonna have a skateboard.
Yeah, they were literally just putting up a border so the ducks couldn't get out in the front yard. And I had to jump over a chicken cage in the chair to get through it, like.
Still running on like 1 liter of blood. That's a challenge.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I was just bleeding all over the place. I have no idea how much blood was me at that time, to be honest with you, but, like, it was crazy.
Oh, wild, bro. Well, hey, man, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience? Any messages or any things that you want to get out there?
Yeah, I think that the Stateless documentary, I hope it's going to show the damages of the drug war and maybe, just maybe, we should rethink prohibition on drugs in society, or maybe just being a little softer on it, because the lives that it's affected has been completely negative.
And countless.
And I don't know if it's added to society by making those things illegal, even though that it does screw people up really bad. Some of these drugs, when people become dependent on it, they get really screwed up. So, like, what are the costs that we've paid over this time? And I hope Stateless is able to point that out. I don't know if that's the direction of the film. They're just collecting all sorts of information, and they're doing their best to figure out a direction, which they haven't shared.
Wow.
Yep.
That's so interesting. I love the amorphous spontaneity of the creativity.
As a matter of fact, you have the opportunity to interview one of the men saved my life tonight if you want to.
Wow. Is this gentleman right here?
This is one of the men that saved my life.
Want to say hi to our audience? Hello, we have new friends. So is he?
That's Doug. That's Doug.
So it's funny. We basically just did a whole interview about his story and how it's related to like the Stateless documentary.
No, just the shooting. Just the shooting. Like not about the pack, the community, all that stuff that we've been getting into, and the practices we've been doing.
You told the story of
Yeah.
Mike driving down the mountain and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I shared that a little bit and stuff like that. I'm sure you have some perspective. You want to sit in the hot seat and
Yeah, would you like to
take
add
a few
something to this?
questions.
You can't be
All right.
done. Mike said we're going to have a Q&A.
Q&A. Yeah, well, I can answer a few questions
All
if
right,
you
yeah,
want
let's
me
do
to
the
answer
Q&A
some
first.
questions.
No, you guys do what you're doing. You can come back maybe.
Well, how about let's do the.
No,
let's
no,
do the
I'm sitting
Q&A
in front of the
now.
mic, man.
Yeah.
This is one of the men that saved my life.
Yeah.
That's Doug.
That was the guy who paid all your hospital bills, right?
Yeah.
What are
He
the
showed
fucking
up. He showed up, and even though that there's tons of threats in my life, and that everybody was worried about the cartel coming up and eliminating us, he stayed in the hospital with me at my side, made sure I did not die on that hospital bed.
Wow.
And seriously, people were saying, "Get out of there! The cartel is coming."
Did they just not know that?
They didn't know. They were just guessing. It was guesswork, and the only way they would have known is that they were participating actively in John's murder, which I don't believe for a second.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
they were just all like.
It
kind of
was fear,
freaking out.
speculation, and it was damaging at the time. But we learned that lesson, and I honestly believe if people can go back, they would take back a lot of stuff that they said and did. I honestly believe that.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, man. I'm
What are
happy
the
to be
odds
here.
I get to talk to the guy that saved your life about the rest of the story?
Yeah, absolutely.
He wasn't here. He just showed up now
Yeah,
at the end of this interview. which
Just
is crazy.
wandered in at the end of the interview. It's like, holy crap! These guys were all talking about going home and chilling out there and stuff. You want the hot seat, man?
All right, well, listen, we got to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll jump right back on with you, all right? Stay tuned, guys. We got one more guest.
Check, 1, 2. All right, let's crash this motherfucker, buddy. Can someone go into the event and turn off the music? Anyone?
Someone please, Sonny, go
All right, let's go. All right, listen up. So, all you gotta do is wave your arms uncontrollably and smile at everybody in the place, okay? Don't put that speaker in the freaking... All right, let's go.
Bring 'em out, bring 'em out, bring 'em out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. Bring 'em out, bring 'em out. Bring 'em out, bring 'em out. Bring 'em out, bring 'em out.
VIP coming live from the VIP. Heard the nightlife, lost life for that thing. Home kid in the state, wanna see my knee. The whole city got this, heard he got 3. That's a nigga got a hip and shout he not out. Who's that sitting on 5 soon as he got free? The king back now. Hold on, you know how to act now. Hit the blue strippers, getting naked, boys back down. Still ballin', money stacked, all the shack now. Still push a button and let them on the back down. I'm on the road doing shows, doing back down. Mississippi, the field, the Albuquerque, the chat time. Got the crowd yelling. Got rich and I'm still on some hooligan shit. You be rapping by flow, I don't moving the shit. You talk about shooting out, now we're doing the shit. If I hit you in the face, you gon' be suing the shit. And if I catch another case, I know it's true to be missed, so I'ma keep it cool, stay out of
Pardon our interruption. We will now leave the premise.
Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking.
And we're back. AEX Late Night Episode 4. I have with myself Doug. I can't pronounce his last name.
Barbieri.
Barbieri. Doug, thank you for joining me. It's so ironic how this just happened because, of course, I didn't plan to have Jason on the show. That happened spontaneously. And then at the very end of the story, we got to the part where he was at the hospital and he was trying to like pay for his life essentially. And there wasn't really the finances for that. And we got to this part of the story where you showed up, guardian angel, and took care of all the finances and made sure they stitched him up.
Yeah, the problem was is his card. It's not like Jason didn't have any money, but his credit card, he didn't have it like enabled for international use.
Yeah, it's so annoying. ATMs don't even work sometimes.
No, you can't use it at all. They cut you off.
sucks.
No, so I remember I walked in and I walked in and well, first of all, I found out that John had gotten shot by the internet. I had a friend of mine message me and said, "Did you see this?" Like,
because they went live on Facebook while it happened.
I didn't know that. I was about to go with this other guy on on that boat tour thing of the lake,
yeah,
with the live bar and everything. Of the bay rather, and I was about to get
on a boat,
go with them, and then I get this message, and I'm like, "What happened?" And she's like, "John got shot or something." And I'm what? And I remember I texted a mutual friend, Mike Alexander. I says, "Is John okay?" And he wrote back one word, "dead." Oh. And I actually started crying because I was like, I suddenly realized this was real because I thought, no, this can't be real. And I saw like a quick video of Lily crying. I'm like, oh my God, everything is just, all hell's breaking loose. And so I said, "Where are you, Mike?" And he says, he gave me the pin to the hotel. And I showed up at the hotel. Hotel.
Here?
Hotel. No. Hospital. It starts with an H. I'm terribly sorry. It's just a little bit noisy, and I'm trying to keep a coherent thought in my head.
Yeah, I know. We got quite the party.
We got really, it's going nuts over here. So sorry, I apologize. The hospital. So I said, "Where are you?" He dropped me the pin to the hospital, and I got down there, and they're like, Mike's like, "Well, they need to get paid to, like, they're going to throw him out." And I'm like, "Why?" And, "Well, his credit card won't work." And I'm like, "Well, screw that. Here, use mine." You know? I'm like, what the hell? I didn't even met Jason. I didn't even know. I remember watching the video with Lily, and she's like, she says the Henza, right? She says Henza. And I'm like, "What's a Henza?" I have no idea what this guy is, you know? And, Mr. Ron.
What's up,
man?
homie?
You want to
say hi to our guests?
You are now live. You are on the internet.
You are now on the live stream. Say hi. Yeah.
Hi, Mom. It's hella funny, man.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining the show.
That's Acapulco Ron, by the way. He's the man. Yeah, he's the dude. Well, anyways, so to continue my story, so I get there, or I see the video, and I'm like, "What's a Henza?" You know? And so I get to the hospital. Okay, so Jason's been shot. This guy named Jason, who's a friend of Lily. Well, shit, John got killed, and there's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah.
Well, let me see what I can do for Jason. I'll be damned if I'll let this guy die on my watch, you know?
Yeah.
And so I showed up, and then I gave him my credit card, and then they finally opened up the doors and wheeled him out, and he was in his wheelchair. And it's funny, it's something like out of a movie. He looked to me like, have you seen Forrest Gump?
Yeah.
Right? And what's his name? Captain Dan?
Oh, Captain Dan, right?
Captain Dan. He looked just like Captain Dan. His like
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan. And his hair's all like funky, and he's covered with blood, and he's like, and he's got a scraggly beard. And he looks up at me and he goes, "Who the hell are you?" And I'm like, "Well, my name's Doug. Would have been nice if we'd have met under better circumstances." So anyway, I sat with him the entire time, and it was really interesting because Mike is sitting here freaking out.
Yeah, he was unstable because it was a very jarring experience.
Freaking out, right? And the police are there, and they're like nervous. The doctors are nervous, and Henza is sitting there in his hospital bed. They're working on pulling bullets out of him, right? Ugh. He's worried about going into shock, and yet he's talking everybody in the room down and calming everybody down. And like, I get a message from Lily. Lily wants to go back up to the house, and he's like, tell her no, okay? I mean, it was really funny, man. He was absolutely calm.
Dude, I was surprised as he was reliving the story with me. I was like, yo, how did you like remain that zen as you were like dying?
It was,
you know what I mean?
It was incredible. No, it really was incredible. I was in awe. I'm like, wow, this guy, man.
True hero story, man.
It really is. It really is.
I mean, he wasn't done alone. I mean, he told me how literally like they almost hit a wall with that once the doctors. He said even after you guys paid them, it was hard to get them to work on him.
It's true. They were nervous. You should see the one doctor that was talking to him was just
He's like, I don't want to get my hands in that.
well, and they're all like, I had some friends saying, you should get out of there, it's dangerous. I'm not leaving. And it's like, I remember I walked outside. Actually, I had to go buy new clothes for Jason because his clothes were destroyed.
Yeah, because his clothes were dyed red.
They were red and they were destroyed. I think they had to cut them off of them, you know.
Oh, because they
Anyway.
get like stuck?
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, yeah, because then they like get stuck to your wound and all.
Yeah, and so it destroyed his clothes. So I had to go get new clothes for him. And so I walked outside, and I needed to find a place to buy clothes. And turns out there was like a specialty shop that was across the street, kind of high end, but it had clothing. And I walked out, and the street was full of military and police. And I'm like, if the gangs come, they're stupid right now. So, you know.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was crazy. So I walked across the way, got new clothes for him, and it was a really nice shirt and white pants. It was a blue kind of Mexican looking shirt and white pants. It's really nice looking stuff. So when the whole thing was said and done, we walked out on the Costera. They did everything they could for him, and we actually walked out of there.
Wow.
And like, I have this photo of Jason walking down the Costera, and he looks badass. The dude just got shot 3 times, and he looks awesome in his new outfit. It's hella funny, man.
Just wearing like a Gonzo t-shirt.
No, he was in this. It was like a nice Mexican looking, you know, like a nice shirt, like it's a, you know, sleeves like this, and it's a button down, you know. And he looked like $1 million. It's like you wouldn't have known the guy was just about ready to die, you know.
Seriously. So then you kind of you barely knew him when you saved his life, but then you got more involved with him and sort of kind of got entangled in the story. Do you want to tell a little bit of that and what followed all
Yeah,
this?
I mean, we became friends after that. I mean, it's the rest of the story isn't as exciting as that, but I mean, we totally became instant friends because of this, you know, a bond.
Huge bond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you know, he unfortunately he kind of had to disappear because the whole situation was crazy. So he and Lily went into hiding, and
Yeah, I know,
you know.
because Lily's, she was a fugitive at the time, or at least she thought
it
she was, right?
and the police wanted her, and like we didn't know if the gangs were going to like.
Nobody knew
happened?
what
Are they
was
gonna
really
come-
good. Yeah.
Are they gonna come back and try to finish the job? And but Jason and I basically like we've just stayed connected since, and so he moved out of Acapulco and he moved to a different city, and I'd go visit him. I'd stay with him. My girlfriend and I are real good friends with him now. We love his dog, Sammy, Yeah, I mean, it's really awesome, so.
That's beautiful, man.
And we repeatedly make fun of him on our social media channels,
Like how? Like what?
Oh, we're always
Gagging?
like for example, he created this group, and he called it the Community, and we thought he was being funny. C-U-M. No, he misspelled it.
Oh, really?
So
Like
it's like,
that?
and I actually put the subject of the group is like proof that Henza can't spell. That's the kind of stuff. And I said, dude, and I was making we should make a meme that says hospital stay X amount, that thing. And at the end, making fun of Henza for the rest of his life. Priceless, yeah. We saved him to make fun of him, yeah. Nah, he's a great guy. We love Henza.
It is beautiful that
Yeah.
that is how this story sort of gets to live on. Is now you do get to gag and joke and stuff like that.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean?
It's funny. I mean, Lily was actually coming up with some pretty dark humor. What did she say? Hey, Lil, you got to tell that. What's the joke that you made about Henza about the on Keybase? or it was, or Telegram rather, yeah. And I'm trying to remember that it was hella funny. About look it up because it's good. It was real black. It was real good.
She said it wasn't okay.
It was not okay, but it was funny.
That is isn't it funny how we humans cope with things so strangely?
Actually, it's the way to cope. I mean, if you can make a joke out of it.
Yeah, like I've noticed that even in like situations where like things are grim, like
Yeah.
I might be lost or something, or like we might be in a dangerous situation, a little bit of humor does go a long way.
Whip out the humor because that helps. Well, the way, like I guess Henza's connected with his baseball team back in the States, and they were like making jokes like those thugs, man. They didn't shoot him enough to kill him. You know, they were making jokes like that. You know, it doesn't
Oh
take
my
3.
God.
He has a jersey of 5. That
Yeah.
says 5 on it. And when he was on his
So
team,
they were saying he needed 5.
he needed 5 shots, not 3. Those
Let's see
guys,
this, Lil.
yeah. Oh, wait.
Said he's just such a hoe and an easy target. Already caught 3 bullets already.
Yeah, that's what it was. He's such an easy target. Already caught 3 bullets. We're like, oh. It was damn funny, yeah.
Humans, man, we're a wild bunch.
We're a wild bunch, man.
I must say though, this is absolute like. So when people say, in an anarchist community, what would happen if a bunch of criminals came up and tried to shoot your property up? Your family and your neighbors, and even complete strangers, will just come to your aid because of human connection and the humanity shared between the two of us.
Well, that is exactly the whole point. I mean,
And that is what happened. That is
Yeah.
actually what happened. And we have actual case that showed someone's life being saved from the jaws of death due to this sort of connection that we base our anarchist sort of relationships on.
I got a mutual friend named Steve, and he what did he call me? He called me the like the answer or something. Anyway, he'd been given somebody had hit him with that question, like, well, without like state services and stuff, no one would help anyone else. And he was
No one would ever help a
yeah.
sick or dying
and he's
person.
he was like kind of stumped. And then when I did what I did,
He was like, oh, somebody would just help because that's what
he
happens.
completely lost his mind. He says, wait, you didn't even know Jason? I'm like, no, I didn't know him at all. You've answered my question. It was really
all
funny.
the light bulbs go off. He goes,
Yeah.
I have the answer.
I got the answer.
And I would say that really probably applies to like all the other like straw man questions we get asked. What would take care of this crazy anomaly of this awful thing that we are scaring you with? We would figure it out. We would come together as a community and make it work, just like you did to save his life.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I say. Oh, so you're saying that without police, people would just fold over and go, oh, well, there's nothing we can do? I think people would take action and figure stuff out.
When in reality, the police weren't helpful at all.
Well, actually, that was the roots of as I understand, the roots of the Black Panthers, because the police at the time were abusing the
Their
people
power.
in their city, and they weren't doing the job
Yeah.
of keeping the peace. So they put together their own group, and they call themselves the Black Panthers, for the sole purpose of policing the neighborhoods and keeping them safe.
Keep him safe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you call when the police are your enemy? You know what I mean? That's a really dark thing that people need to think more about. Like, what if they're not on your side? They're the ones you think you're going to rely on in a jam, but what if like they're actually your enemy? Like,
What
that's-
happens?
That's a really scary thing that's very real for a lot of people.
Who watches the watchers?
Yeah. Exactly. And like the beauty is, it's all like we've been sold that like these are necessary evils and things like that. But every year in Acapulco and all these other events and even just in intentional communities across the world, humans are showing through their actions that community is stronger than any of that dogma or any of those straw man arguments on the internet. Because that's really what humans do: is we connect with each other, we recognize the God force or the life force in each other, and we honor it. Do you know what I mean? If we don't do that, it's just because we've been traumatized so badly that we can't recognize it in ourselves anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's also like a sort of almost this externalized thing. It's like, well, the government will take care of that, and it's like you
abdicate responsibility
I'm not
for
gonna worry
everything.
about it. And then when you say, well, if the government's not there, then who's going to do it? It's like, well, like I think Mark Stevens had the best response to the who will build the roads question. He goes, people will.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that if there's no state, no one will build a road? You know. No one will have a security
And the
force.
state doesn't even build the roads.
No,
the
man.
state contracts normal construction workers to build the roads. The construction workers would just build the roads like they do anyway. It's the stupidest argument ever.
they
And
would
if we
do it
get
anyway.
rid of the state, the roads are all still there.
The roads
on
are
top of all that.
They're still. We still need roads. Well, I kind of wanted to on that one. Is like because the state has taken over road building, they've kind of imposed this and they give it away at zero price, and not free but zero price,
Yeah.
which encourages more people to drive. But I wonder, like, if the state hadn't done these things, would we have more alternative forms of transportation? It's a question I think is really weird. Yeah,
I believe they even actively suppress alternative technologies that would increase like transportation efficiency, like, you know, really high level stuff that like military grade stuff that could really like eliminate the need for our energy consumption and even like wasting time in travel. But yeah, they want to keep us, you know, with like fucking last century's technology so that everything's slow and we're dependent on them and stuff like that.
that's very true.
And that's what people don't get. Like they think that like we have all this technology that we have and we have the lifestyle we have because of government. No, we actually have that in spite of government.
I actually think that we are actually really far behind because
yeah,
we have a
exactly.
state.
Like we actually would
Yeah.
be way further ahead if we didn't have the impedances that we are hitting with these
Yeah.
roadblocks and all
Yeah.
of this legal like game that suppresses the development of technology, the development of cultural ideas, the development of new political systems, the development of new systems of currency. I mean, cryptocurrency got put on hold after 2017 because the entire machine, Facebook ads, Google ads, all the KYC stuff came together to just make it so that people couldn't use this new technology that was put there to liberate people.
Yeah,
So-
they literally threw the roadblock in. They make it very hard to go from crypto to fiat.
Cash, yeah.
Yeah.
With KYC, I remember I had a Bank of America credit card that I was using to buy like Bitcoin on exchanges, and then one day Bank of America was like, "We will no longer be supporting credit card purchase for cryptocurrency exchanges." And that's when I was like, "Okay, this is the best investment I've ever made because my bank is afraid of it." That was the dead giveaway to me that like, okay, the banks are actually they're scared. That is fear, and that is them adjusting their strategy because they
When
know
you-
that they're being threatened by this new sort of way.
When you see like these big wigs that are like high in the banking system come out strong against Bitcoin and call it a scam, and I mean that's that
that's
should
to
make
be
you want to
expected.
invest in it.
Yeah, that should be your fucking golden ticket to get into crypto. If those dudes are afraid of it, because they're loaded, and if their assets are in danger, that means there's a huge transfer of wealth that is possible. And all the people who are worried about income inequality and think that like Bernie Sanders is the thing that's gonna fix that, dude. If we all moved away from these systems into free systems like crypto, we would create so much wealth. No amount of socialism could even generate that kind of wealth. That's what people don't get. We see a world that's way more like loving and caring and takes care of one another beyond socialism because of the freedom that we allow each other. That, just like this, creates spontaneous order. No one in this party is being told what to do right now. But everybody's connecting, having fun. There's dogs running around.
There's like an implicit set of rules that we all kind of agreed
And it's
on.
really just one rule,
but
the
it's-
golden rule.
Yeah,
Don't treat
it's
others how
true.
you want to be treated.
Yeah, exactly
Boil
right.
every fucking thing down to that. It's
Yeah.
like so simple. Your schooling could be like 1 week, and you could just write that on the board 10 times a day for a week, and that's all the schooling I think you can honestly need in this life. And then everything else is just an extension of that. You know what I mean?
That and the internet.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh
So-
yeah, and Jason, things and stuff. That's his favorite thing, man.
That's great. I like stupid like abstracts like that. Like when people make fun of sports, like do the sport, get the points, get the win. Like so funny. So, is there any? So I guess like anything else on the story that you, from your perspective, is unique? Like as far as like maybe a certain angle that you saw things from, being like sort of like late to the party. As far as like jumping into this relationship as soon as this climax happened.
Well, I mean, when that happened, it was like what went off in my head was like they said this wouldn't happen in Acapulco.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be dangerous,
Yeah.
and it was something that scared me. It really did.
Yeah. It definitely is a reality check.
Yeah. Suddenly, it's like, wait a second. Maybe some of these guys are blowing some smoke or something.
Mm-hmm.
Acapulco is dangerous. Mm-hmm. But, if you mess with the wrong people or, if you go in the wrong places.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still a great place to live, and I'm not leaving.
Dude, Philadelphia's dangerous.
You know.
The city that I live in is one of the most dangerous cities in the fucking Eastern Seaboard. Every fucking major city is dangerous. Like, there's just going
Chicago's
to be danger.
worse.
Yeah, Chicago is way worse. There's
Yeah.
going to be danger everywhere.
Yeah.
But I think that we got so excited because of how like exaggerated they were about the danger of Acapulco that we sort of like almost saw it through rose-colored glasses.
Well,
You
the
know what I
thing
mean?
about it is that if we think, I have to say we think because it's still a theory,
Yeah.
but the guy that, and he certainly claimed credit for it, the guy that was behind all of this,
Paul Proper.
yeah, is a gringo. Okay, I mean he's not even a Mexican.
I know. Yeah, he's like the gringoest gringo.
And if you're gonna say, well, Acapulco is dangerous because of the Mexicans, it wasn't really. I mean, the guys that did the hit were paid.
Yeah, it's actually sort of ironic that pretty much the only thing that we've had as far as like a crazy violent event has been in-house. You know what I mean? He might have hired
Our own people in
Yeah.
our own house
exactly.
have done this.
He might
Exactly.
have hired out help. He might have hired hitmen, but as far as like the impetus, it came in-house, which is ironic.
Well, the other thing too is like, and this is something that Jason himself has wrestled with, is just like, wait a second, I kind of thought the community was supposed to come together for this, and they kind of didn't. It kind of fractured everything, and people pointed fingers and tried to throw John under the bus while he was selling coke, and that's why he got hit. And this is the convenient
I saw a lot
answer.
of that. I did see a lot of that.
And
on
that
the
wasn't
internet.
actually right.
Yeah.
It wasn't true at all, and they weren't selling coke.
Yeah.
I
I think a lot of that was people trying to almost like justify to themselves why that wouldn't happen to them or something. Do you
Well,
know
it
what I
was
mean?
easy to just say, well, he was an idiot and he went and sold coke, and he
though I
competed
never
with the
bought coke.
cartels, and that was dumb, and so that's why he got shot. And that was easy. It's kind of harder to say, wait a second, no, this real psychotic dude, right?
Yeah.
One of these guys that got attracted to this place basically hired these guys to take him out.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't sell so well.
Yeah. That is
know?
not. That is not.
That's not going to attract people to Acapulco. you
Yeah.
know?
And I think that.
Wait, I don't know if I want to be around these anarchists and voluntarists if they do that shit,
if they're just killing each other,
Exactly. Like, what the hell?
it's not very voluntary.
Well, it's a reality check. People are people. It doesn't matter what ideology. We can have all the ideologies we want, but people are still people. And
Exactly.
you're still going to have. And the interesting thing about Paul is he's all jacked up because of all the military post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, he had a shit childhood, but then he also
did the military thing.
exactly. And it's the state that actually.
Cracked him, fractured his
exactly.
mind.
Yeah. It's the state that did that to him, but it doesn't matter. He's still responsible
Still
for his
his
actions.
decision,
yeah. But man, well, I mean, when he hung himself, it was like a big sigh of relief, because
Yeah, Jason explained. He said he said it was pretty ugly. He said it was just like it wasn't even related to this event. He said he just had like a bad night one time and he just took it.
I mean, it's sad. It was a sad story
It
to
is.
see, But it was like, oh, okay, well, I feel relieved because now he's not going to do any of those. Because I mean, he was a loose cannon, man. The shit
I know,
that
yeah, he was
posed,
always
oh,
on the internet with his
fuck.
plans and his military plans to like invade wherever the fuck he was trying to invade. It was always an invasion that he was planning, and he would be. And like I honestly liked him. Like I loved like how quirky he was. Like he was just a quirky dude, and it is a shame that he was fractured that much that it led him to do something like that. It's
Well,
awful,
yeah, and then all
which is-
the you talk to anybody, and it's like apparently he's always came down to he would threaten if you got too close to him, or and eventually if you did something he didn't like, he'd be threatening you, and it's like
and that's so good. We can't work that way. We can't use the threat of fear, violence, and manipulation to get what we want from our peers and our colleagues. It has to be like out of a place of love and respect.
Well, people are people, as I say, and it just it takes all kinds, and a lot of people get attracted to this community. A lot of good people that are just like, wow, I really am tired of the government,
Yeah.
And then there's charlatans that are coming here to take advantage, Then there are psychos. I mean, there are people, and you have to be careful,
Yeah, and that's why we stress on this channel the whole concept behind the name, the state of anarchy, is like the state of anarchy is a state of consciousness that needs to be achieved for there to be anarchy. Like that's the only way it's gonna work. You can't just blow up the government or maybe like shut it off with some computer hack and expect society to just self-organize. The idea is we have to cultivate this sort of like this bond and this community between ourselves and transcend the need for a state, just like we transcended the need for like taxi cabs in America with Uber and Lyft. We actually have to create the alternative first before we can get rid of any of the stuff we don't like.
Well,
Well, not a lot of people
yeah.
like to hear that because that means work.
And it takes changing your own mind and your own heart.
Yes.
It actually is one mind at a time, one heart at a time.
And one traumatized individual at a time. We live in a trauma-based mind control system that is numero uno, which you got to fix first before you're going to go into the world.
Well, it's like leaving a dysfunctional relationship. You know, a relationship that was abusive, and that's that's the relationship we have with government.
Yeah, it is.
And
They're
they
the
think
abusive
we
parent.
think, oh, wait, we make excuses, and oh well, you know, and well, it has to be this way because, and then eventually, like I always had a saying, I used to be a minarchist until I stopped making excuses for the government.
Yep, that's usually where it happens. Once you get that far, you just at some point realize
Yeah.
that it all sucks. It's all manipulation. It's all coercion. It's all unnecessary.
It's true. It's very true. It's not like we won't have crime. It's not like we won't have bad people, but it's that system. There's an interesting film called The Engines of Domination.
Interesting.
And now I'm forgetting the guy's name he wrote a book by the same name, and then they adapted and turned it into a film. Now he's very, very, I mean, he's a socialist, right? And so
Got
he
it.
kind of blames capitalism. But his film is still worth watching because he makes the point, like he opens the film with like a conversation between Socrates and an oracle, I think, or maybe it's Ipeda and
Interesting.
So it's a dialogue, and she's like goes to the oracle. That's what it is. She goes to the oracle and she sees the future. And she sees the horrendous warfare and all these things. And then she comes back and then she talks to Socrates. She says, human beings are shit. We're horrible. We are shit. Look what we do. We destroy the planet. We destroy each other. We make war, blah, blah, blah. She says, all I saw was death and desolation, and I don't know what to say. And he says, I don't see that at all. And she's like, what do you mean? He says, human beings are a beautiful species. It's like, but all this stuff. He's like, there's something out of balance here because that's not in our nature.
Yeah.
War's in our nature. He's like, no, it's not in our nature.
You're right.
And his point is that we have built these systems. We're tool makers. We build tools. We build things.
Yeah.
That's in our nature.
Yes.
We like to build stuff. Unfortunately, there are people that have built these engines of domination. And they're in our schools. They're in our government. He even blamed like hierarchical capitalist organizations.
Which essentially the ones he's referring to are the ones that exploit the government anyway.
That are probably connected.
Yeah.
When you take hierarchy and you impose it, that's when you start coming with these problems.
Yeah.
But his point was that at our nature, we are not like that. It is a tiny group of people who have created these tools and have made tools out of us. And that's what we need to reverse.
Yes.
I mean, Larkin Rose has a video about that too, with the little balls. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it's like, and it's with his voice, just being Larkin, Yeah, and it's like he's basically, his point is like, you've got this, like, all of these marbles, all of these people, 300 million people, and then you've got these tiny number over here, and they're calling the shots for all of these people.
Yeah.
Once we realize that it's us against them, that we outnumber them, that's when the game can change.
That's when it's checkmate.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it has to come from us. We have to all individually, and it's not a top-down.
No, yeah, everybody shows up because they want a thing, and we're all just there on the same page individually, and we come together in unity. That's what it's going to look like.
It's the problem with socialism. They want it to be top-down.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
It can never work that way. If it's top-down, it's going to be dystopia. It's going to be a nightmare. It has to start from the bottom up, each individual
And there's
person.
going to be, you create a resource of power that the people at the top are vying for. So it's not equal. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not an equal system. It's all bullshit. Stop being, just ask people who come from these countries. Like, meet some fucking Russians and talk to them. You know what I mean? Like, you fucking American liberals have no fucking idea what, like, the whole rest of the world went through when they tried this. And, like, it doesn't matter, Russia or China. Like, pick your poison, quite literally. You know what I mean?
That was a disaster.
Yeah, like, so, like, maybe study up on that before you start, pushing all this, like, idealism that's actually routed in, a sneak. It's essentially like a fucking genius psyop that they've discovered on how to manipulate people's emotions, but yet get them to do things that are against their best interests. So we here at the State of Anarchy believe that cultivating that inner state is how you transcend all this. So work on your inner state, work on your, your soul, transcending things, work on meditation, work on releasing trauma, work on getting all the trauma-based bullshit that they programmed you with out of you so that you can come out as yourself and, just do these beautiful things like, spontaneously help someone not die because it's coming out of the goodness of your human spirit.
Yeah, how to be free in an unfree world, right?
Yeah, that's what we're all trying to figure out, man. So if you guys are all interested, you guys keep tuning in, and if that's not enough, come down to Acapulco and talk to us, man. Come to AEX. This is where we powwow and figure out how we're actually going to do this. Because like you said, man, it's not going to be anyone else. Everybody's waiting for everybody else to do it. I got sick of waiting. So do the rest of us.
That's awesome. You got a good, powerful message that you should listen to.
Amen. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate you saving my friend's life.
Well,
thank you for that.
I'm glad I did it too because I wouldn't have anyone to make fun of otherwise.
I know. Yeah. Who would you guys trash on the daily? At any cost to just shit talk them. We'll be right back after another commercial break.
Check. 1, 2. All right, let's crash this motherfucker. Can someone go into the event and turn off the music? Anyone?
Someone please, Sonny, go
All right, let's go. All right, listen up. So, all you gotta do is wave your arms uncontrollably and smile at everybody in the place, okay? Don't put that speaker in
drop the
freaking-
speaker!
All right, let's go.
Bring them out, bring them out, bring them out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out.
VIP coming live from the VIP. Heard the nightlife, lost life, what I did. No, in the state, wanna see my knee. The whole city got this, heard he got 3. That's a nigga got a hip and shout, he not out. Who's that city on the 5 soon as he got 3? The king back now. Hold on, you know how to act now. Hit the blue stickers, getting nigga boy back down. Still ballin', money stacks all the shack now. Still push a button and let them on the back down. I'm on the road doing shows, put my back down. Mississippi, the Albuquerque, the chat time. Got the crowd yelling. I got rich and I'm still on some hooligan shit. You be rapping by flow, I was moving the shit. You talk about shooting out, now we're doing the shit. If I hit you in the face, you gon' be suing the shit. And if I catch another case, I know it's true to be missed, so I'ma keep cool and stay out of
Pardon our interruption. We will now leave the premise.
Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Oh yes, you are now rocking with the best. Best, 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 You are now rock with the rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock with the best. You are now rock with the rock
All right, and we're back with our final guest, and probably the one I'm most excited to interview, Lily Forrester, right? Is pronounced that correctly?
Yeah, it's a fake name. You can pronounce it however you want.
You're not supposed to say that it's a fake name, right?
I mean, well, yeah, it's a fake name. Most people didn't know that. Like, I remember when Amanda Roshwitz found out that it's fake name, and she was like, wait, you're not Lily? Who are you then? And I was like, well, that's a long story, but
That's funny.
yeah.
So I had on the show previously Jason Henza, and then Doug B, because I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Barbera, I think.
And both of those guys, recounted the events that occurred last year around. Would you say this happened in January?
It happened February 1st.
Wow, so it was like right
It
before an
was
Acapulco.
literally the 1st of February, and then like afterwards, it was basically like me in hiding. And the story with Doug is I call him my crypto dad, but he became my dad in that situation because he drove all over Acapulco looking for my dog with me for 3 days.
Wow.
Because the cops stole my dogs, and
They stole more than that, right?
they stole fucking everything, but they definitely stole my dogs.
Jesus. They're even like flipping dogs too? That's fucking
Well, the
wild.
thing is, I had cool dogs, so like I think they just like were there and they're like, well, they need a home, take them.
Oh, I see, because they didn't know if you were coming back.
Yeah.
What
They
is-
assumed I probably ran back to the United States. That's what most people thought. Like, there's a lot of people that see me now and they're like, you're still here?
Why did you choose to stay in Mexico?
Well, I mean, it was. I'd at least have to go to jail for a little time in the United States if I had gone back, but I could have gone back and gotten out of it and just blamed everything on John. But, I mean, of all the regrets I do have, coming here is not one of them.
Yeah?
Yeah. I regret being stuck on Acapulco a little too long, not seeing more of Mexico, but, like, Mexico in general, zero regrets. And I'm glad I was here and, like, he could have randomly gotten shot at a movie theater and died also tragically.
In America.
In the United States, and it would have been way worse. I would have had no time to learn, like, no chance to heal from all of it. I just have to survive even more than I did here, whereas here, like, it was like a week or two after the murder, and I'm going around with Doug, and we're going, on adventures around the city, but, like, it kept me sane. It allowed me to heal, and then when I got the hell out of Acapulco, that's when I really started to get better, because I was in Mexico, and I had the freedom to do so.
Now, what brought you to Mexico in the first place? You have sort of an interesting story about all that, huh?
Well, yeah, we considered leaving the country. It's actually a really long, interesting story, but we considered leaving the country two years before we did, when we had 135 Bitcoin at $100 a coin. And we're like, we don't have enough money. So we stayed in the United States. We spent all that crypto. We spent all that Bitcoin just on living off-grid in Cleveland. And then, like, we tried to start living off-grid in Detroit, and we lived there for, like, 2 months, and we were still moving there. And I got arrested on the way back one time, essentially, and charged with 5 felonies. And we were basically, like, we got called flight risks, among other things, in jail. So we were like, fuck it, time to become a flight risk. And we got out of jail, and we made a plan to come to Mexico. And John was like, where are we going? And I was like, well, how about Acapulco? and he was like,
Ron's going nuts.
yeah, and he was like, all right, yeah, let's do Acapulco. It looks great in Berwick's videos. Fuck it, let's go. And yeah, that all led to us, coming here. But
Well, there was another reason, right? Weren't you kind of like facing jail time?
well, yeah, we had 5 felony charges, so it was either face the charges or,
And
Go
for
to
the record, you
Mexico.
weren't like bank robbers. You were.
No,
you
it was
have a
just
condition,
it was all
right?
weed. It was 5 felonies, all related to cannabis, all because I had shit in my car for weed, and the only reason I was consuming weed that chronically at that point was, well, pain.
You have like an injury or a nerve issue, right?
Yeah, I broke my jaw when 2 weeks into my relationship with John. This is Renegade. You can't see him. Well, you can. He'll climb up on you. Just give him his chin. Come on, baby dog. Baby dog.
Oh, you're so handsome. You can kind of see him. We got Balto over here. No,
Yeah.
he's a beast. What kind of dog is this?
He's a mix.
He's a mix?
He
gigantic.
Grand Pyrenees and Saint Bernard and maybe a little bit of other stuff. I want to get him DNA tested, but he is the biggest ball of love I've ever experienced.
He's a beast. Absolute animal.
Yeah,
When did
he was like this big when I got him.
Oh, no way. So you watch him grow from that little, like, that plush teddy bear into, like, that giant.
He watched him from birth. He pulled him out of his mom.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Thank you for birthing that awesome creature.
Yeah. Yeah, he was only, like, He loves traveling. He's loved traveling since he was tiny.
So what, you just throw him in the car?
You just tell him to load up and he jumps up in there, and he's kind of big, so he doesn't fit. Like, he came to Acapulco in a BMW, which, like, was really hard.
In style.
It's the truth, yeah. I mean, yeah, he travels in style. It's because everybody loves him. Like, everybody that meets him is like, this fucking dog.
He is pretty cool. I got great vibes from him so far. Big fluffy beef.
If anybody at Acapulco just at any point is like, I need a fucking hub, come find Renegade. He's got you. He's got you. How Renegade? He's a baby dog. Yeah, well, I mean, all dogs eat poop. He got into the fucking bathroom here, and I gave him a bunch of water after, so there's just an infinitesimally small chance that he'll get sick, but I've seen dogs taken worse. It's part of having a dog.
Exactly. It's just, they get messy. They're just messy.
They get messy, they eat shit, they dig holes, like.
They bark. So, you basically, how did you actually get to Mexico when you were running away?
We fucking drove. Well, we got from Ohio to Oregon on expired plates, which we didn't know until halfway there. And we ride shared to try and prevent that from happening. No, that still fucking happened. And we got to Oregon and we were fucking stranded for 3 months, no work. We finally got enough money together to get a car. That car fucking broke down, but we were on a communist household farm thing that was awful, and the people there were awful, and we were basically like, we'd rather be homeless in Mexico than dealing with this.
You were like indentured servants?
So yeah, and we had nothing, so it was like, all right, let's just go to Mexico, and we were literally begging, panhandling the money from Oregon all the way to Mexico, and actually Ryan Urbanson in this community gave me $70 in Bitcoin, and that helped us get over the border, and we crossed and we had like $50, but we were like, we'll figure it out somehow. And then our friend Dana helped us get the rest of the way and paid for our first stay here and getting to Acapulco. And Berwick before, he gave me the advice to cross. So we were like, look, we got a truck. When's the best time to cross? Where do we go? And he goes, go to Tijuana on a Friday night. He's like, they'll be too busy. And he was right.
Genius, yeah, because there's so much crossover there. It's right next to San Diego.
Exactly.
So many people are in and out, and then you're in the country.
Exactly, and it was just like, all right. And they scanned our truck because our truck was full of shit, and we had our dog and everything, and they just asked us, like, where are you going? And we told them Rocky Point, which was, like, pretty close to there. And they're like, oh. And we're like, yeah, we'll be back, going back in
We'll be back next week.
And they're like, okay. And we're just like, okay, and we get in the car and we're driving into Tijuana, and I see Bienvenidos at Tijuana, and I was like, what? So we get into Tijuana itself, I was like, did we make it? And John's like, I think we fucking made it. I was like, holy fuck, we made it. And yeah, it was like a wow moment. And then yeah, it was just the epic journey to Acapulco, which like, That's what I blogged about on Steam in the early days, and how I got popular was just telling the epic story. Like, we slept in salt flats on the side of the road, on the free roads, in the Sonoran Desert, and it was fine. Like, and it was the perfect culture shock we need, because we got into Mexico and we were like, we are definitely not in California anymore. And it was awesome. Because I hated California. I hated every second California.
What didn't you like about California?
Mostly the people. And, like, the people were nice, but the people were dumb. I mean, I hate to say this. Sorry to the watchers if you're from California, but I'd go up there and I'd, like, tell them, like, hey, I'm trying to get home. Can you spare some change? And they'd be like, yeah! And they'd open up their wallet and they'd look at it and they're like, I don't have any money. And that happened, like, 40 or 50 times. The people that gave me the most money throughout California on my way to Acapulco was Mexicans.
Wow.
Mexican truckers. I'd see them and I would get out of the truck and take off running towards them. and I'd just start talking to them and they just pull out their pockets and give me all their change.
Wow.
Mexicans every time. So we knew, we're like, oh, we're going to the right place.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
were signs that you were moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So you made it to Acapulco, and then how long did you live there?
3 years. 3 years, the murder happened, and then I lived there for another 2 months, like, stubbornly, like, you can't take my city from me. And then I was just like, fuck, though, I'm imprisoned here. Because I couldn't leave my house without worry of the police. It was mainly worry of the police. I wasn't so much worried about my life by the end of it, but, like, it was the police, because, like, I got in a physical altercation where I was going to meet Doug to go to a Temazcal ceremony.
Oh, shit.
And, yeah, the cops, like, senorita, they recognized me. And I just, like, was ignoring them. And, yeah, they, like, pulled down the road and get out. And one of them starts come running towards me. And my instinct when a cop runs towards me is fucking running opposite direction.
Yeah.
So I start running uphill, like, in a I had nowhere to go. And I left my shoes behind and everything. Lost my shoes that night. And I just was booking it. And they chased me down with the car, the truck, and the one guy on foot. And I just lost it. Like, I went full autistic meltdown on him. Like, I was screaming rape. I was hitting them. I was punching them.
Get him!
I was kicking them. One of them grabbed my purse, and I had a bunch of money that I was about to pay my lawyer in it. So, like, 10,000 pesos or something. Whoa. And he grabbed my bag, and I was just like, and I fucking bit him.
Nice.
Before I knew what was going on. And he just looked at me like, what? and by the end of it, they had like 30 cops there whose their sole job was to keep me restrained because they were trying to get me to sit still so they could ask me some questions. They wanted my testimony of the murder, and I was not complying. And and I was just like, no, like, and then they finally brought tourist police, and I basically had the tourist police tell them, like, y'all stole everything I own, let me the fuck go. And they were just like,
They're like, yeah. They're like, yeah.
And it just wasn't worth it because I was screaming. But the interesting thing was, like, when they got me to calm down, the first question they asked me was the cop asked me, like, in broken Spanish, you know, where's Paul? And I was like, that's your job. And they're just like, they like looked at the lady, like the tourist police, and she like translated that, and he just looked at me, and I was like, and they thought, apparently the police thought that Paul was my brother, and I was like, Paul's just a crazy American guy, and they're just like, oh, well, where is he? And I was like, I don't know. I'm glad I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. It was just such a mess. I later found out that, like, Paul was removed from Acapulco by force.
Like, by who? Like the military?
By the police.
For
by
what?
gunpoint.
What do they want? They just wanted him out?
Well, like, he was living in a house that was for sale, and it was rented, and the guy that was renting it no longer lived there, and, like, the landlord contacted the guy that, like, rented it and was like, look, somebody wants to buy it, he needs to get the fuck out. And the guy was like, do whatever you have to get him out. And he showed up and he was like, you're going to go to the airport with me tomorrow. And Paul pulls out a knife at him, and he goes, like hell I am. And the dude pulls out a gun on him, and he's like, you will. Yeah. And he's like, I'll be back here with the cops tomorrow. You're going to the airport and you're going home. And he did it the next day. He took him to the airport and took him home. He was removed with force, with cops.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, so where's home for Paul? Or where was home for Paul?
It was Pennsylvania. So
He's
like
from, he's from my state.
Dude, that's
I remember I was talking to him about that. Fuck.
That's why we dealt with him, is because, like, he kind of reminded us of home, and then he started to remind us of nothing but the bad parts of home. Like,
oh man.
Yeah, that, like, the fact that he was from PA is the whole reason, honestly, that John, like, because John was the one that was like, we should help him, and I was just like, that dude's a fucking train wreck, and John's like, I think we could help him, and I'm like, okay. And yeah, like, it's not clear that, like, he for sure hired anybody, but he definitely was talking shit to some people that had enough guns to kill John for competition, you know? Like, I thought a lot about it, like, There are people currently, like, just this last, like, week, I think, 2 people died in the Michoacan forest over protecting the butterflies from loggers. People dying over butterflies, and, like, we were foolish enough to think that we could be pot activists and fucking Acapulco real obvious about it. Like, who knows what happened there?
Well, I commend your bravery and, and John's bravery as well to the end. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
gotta give it to him. That's in the samurai culture. That's the most honorable way to go. in
Yeah,
that
he
regard.
always said I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees.
Beautiful.
And that was pretty much how he, how we went. He was definitely on his feet. Like, that was just such a crazy day. It's like 2019 is the only year I've ever looked back at and been like, what the fuck was that?
Wow.
In like both good ways and bad ways, because it started off so bad. And then by the end of it, I was just like, things were really good and things are still really good. And I'm just like, how the fuck did I get from there to here?
How did you get from there to the here?
A little therapy, a lot of time alone, and some dabs. And I mean,
I recommend dabs as well.
And living in Mexico, like living in Mexico gave me the time to just fucking. There were days where I just didn't fucking get out of bed, and I didn't have to because of the way I built my life. So I've just, I was able to just take a couple weeks to just be pissed off and angry, and and then I got a therapist, and that was extremely helpful in certain regards. And yeah, it's just been a process of hustling mostly.
Wow.
Hustling and therapy. And fun with friends, because I wouldn't have survived this year if I didn't have. I had people regularly checking up on me, and then I had friends that were like regularly like, Lily, let's go do things.
Yeah, getting you out of the house and stuff like that. That's so crucial when you're in those dark moments in your life. Those periods of
You
time.
just got to remember life doesn't fucking suck. It's easy to be just like, my life is awful, because not only did you just witness a murder, you lost your dogs, your vehicles, your cameras, your computers. And you're just like, fuck. Whole world sucks. Well, I mean, I learned last year that the world doesn't actually suck, and that there are a lot of good people out there. There are a lot of really shitty people out there. I learned that too. I was like, wow. Like, some of the YouTube comments on the video where, like, Henza and I went live, like, for anybody curious, I went live because my phone had a glitch in it. It was a Sony Xperia, and they had this common glitch where the microphone breaks. So I couldn't call for help. So I went live on Henza's Facebook because I couldn't figure out who to contact through his phone because I was freaking out.
Yeah, and lo and behold, that was the right move. It ended up saving his life.
Yeah, and then, like, the crazy thing about that is, like, a week or two ago, I got the stupid idea to go and look up the video because I knew it was on YouTube, and then just read the reviews, read what people had to say. More than half of them said I was faking it, or that I was the one that caused the murder, and it was my way of covering my tracks.
Why do people do that?
And,
It's so insane.
and I've always asked, like, a couple people insinuated pretty heavily. There were people going around to people after the murder and being like, don't give to Lily. She caused the murder. Like, why would I do that to myself?
Yeah, like, I could not even remotely imagine a scenario where you could sell that to somebody. I think that these people, a lot of these people, like, we were talking, I think I was talking to Jason about this, about how, like, when stuff like this happens, people have to accept the reality of, like, this is something that we might have to deal with if we do decide to, like, live in an anarchist society. And
Well, that was the big thing. Is it was a big learning experience for everybody, especially me. But it was for everybody because everybody was like, "Wait, that can happen." Because everybody's here all like, "Yeah, anarchist party," but then like somebody dies, then it becomes a little more real. Like every
Yeah.
time somebody gets thrown in prison, it's a little more real. When people die, it's a little more real. Like, it, and at the end of the day, it's all a result of the fucking drug war. Like, I mean, I can figure out what specific, things caused it, but really what caused it, the whole reason we were here without papers in the first place is the drug war.
yeah, you were running from being incarcerated for using a plant chemistry to heal an injury in your body,
so
harming
it's
no
just
one.
like, all right, guys.
So I feel like that might be what inspires you to keep on this anarchist path and do the activism that you do to spread this word to eliminate things like this from happening to others.
Well, yeah, just remind people that it can happen, and then just, like, also remind people, like, you know, I thought I was completely done for after everything, and then, like, it took me, like, 7 months to realize that, like, you know, my life was gonna be fine, if not better. When shit like that happens, and, like, the first thing, like, the one thing I will say, anybody who is actively living in agorism is going to face some sort of opposition from some entity, be it cartel, be it government, something. You're going to face something, and you're going to face losing everything, and you have to be ready to lose everything if that comes, because you can't, like, we can sit here and be like, the state is immoral, and it's awful, but that doesn't make it go away. That doesn't make the cops stop arresting people. We still got to deal with that shit. So, like, it's, you know, we got to remember that we have to live with this system and, you know, against it, but also be willing to come together when shit does go wrong like that. Because, like, I could have easily ended up deported, and then not only would I have just witnessed a murder, I'd be deported in jail in the United States.
Just one in, like, 2 countries, basically.
Which would have been awful. Like, fuck that,
What a
dude.
nightmare. So you had to go into hiding, basically, afterwards, right?
I was in hiding for weeks. It was 2 weeks before I came out to an event. I came to an event at a party at this house, and everybody looked at me like they had seen a ghost. Most people were like, I thought I'd never see you again.
Wow.
And, yeah, I thought about just fucking disappearing, but, like, things kept keeping me in Acapulco. I kept holding out hope for my dogs, and then I just kept staying longer, and then I got stubborn. My fucking city, I'm not leaving. Paul's gonna leave first, I'm not leaving, fuck it. But, like, yeah, and I mean, and then I was just like, I couldn't breathe in this city. I was like, I love this city, but I can't go out. Like, I couldn't go out, and it wasn't just like bad stuff. It was, I'd go out and I'd be at Walmart, and the cashier would ask me, "Where's your esposo?" And I tell him he's dead, and oh, I saw it in the news, I'm sorry, I hoped it wasn't him. And it's like, nope, there's only one 6-foot-tall dreadlocked motherfucker, or there was, in Acapulco. There's only one.
Well, Lily, my heart breaks for your loss, and your strength in the wake of this should be an inspiration to people who have lost all over the world.
Yeah.
I think your light and your ability to talk about this with such composure, being that it happened less than a year ago,
Yeah.
is pretty impressive and a testament again. It seems like with this whole theme, this whole test, so I'm gonna name this episode the testament to the human spirit and the infinite power that dwells within all of us to do parkour flips when you're bleeding out, like Jason was doing, or to do something a lot more like of a marathon and overcome like a tremendous pain like that and find, you know, a new joy in life.
Yeah,
and a
it
new reason to
was
go on.
definitely hard. There were definitely points where I was just like, fuck this, dude. My situation is still fucking hard. Like, I'm still on the run. I still don't have papers. I still face deportation, but it's just like every day I got something. Like, my life is really good right now, so every day, you know, I wake up and I'm reminded, like, no, I have to find a way to fight for this and stick around for this, because well, I had Amparo. I had it for 30 days. I don't anymore. It was a temporary thing. You got to pay a lot more money than I paid to get Amparo for forever. No, but, like, I'm also not that likely to be deported. Like, you know, immigration sees me and they're just going to see an innocent white lady.
Yeah.
They don't expect me to be here without papers. They expect me to be too afraid about that.
So how do you get away with not having papers? They just don't ask you for them?
Well, they ask, but I refuse.
You can just you can just say no?
I tell them fucking no. I've never, like, I even, like, bought some, like, fake ID, basically, that would have sufficed. But, like, I have a saying, and Henza knows this one fairly well because he's been in a police chase with me, but it's don't fucking stop for cops. So, like, he was in a police chase with me, and they also tried to stop me at a military checkpoint after the murder. They put a orange barricade. They just lifted it up and put it in front of the car like that was going to get me to stop. And I just drove through it, and they're just like, and Henza's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, I'm not stopping.
I love the advice that we give on the show. Do not stop for cops.
Yeah, fuck that, dude. Like, no thanks. And when I deal with cops, like, I haven't had to deal with cops since I had that fight with them in the street. And that was just like, I just, like, fought them. And well, the one thing I can say, not one of them tried to hurt me. Not one of them threatened me. The only thing they did was held on to me, sometimes like 3 or 4 of them holding on to me at once, and they just held me there. They didn't try and put me on the ground. They didn't try and put me in cuffs. They didn't try to restrain me. They didn't try to hurt me. They didn't raise their big-ass guns at me. They were just like, why is she responding like this? And I was just like, Brad, leave me alone! Ah! And they were just like, what do we do here? We just wanted to ask you questions. And I was like, no! Oh my God, it was like, I think I handled it well.
Flying colors. That's insane.
My lawyer was just like, they're all talking about you after that. He called me the most famous woman in Acapulco because of that. And I was like, I just told him I hope it gets them to leave me alone. And they did. The rest of the time I was here, they'd see me and they'd stare at me, but they were just like,
No, I don't want no piece of that anymore.
yeah, no thanks.
See how long of a way it can go if you just fight back just a little bit. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like digging your teeth into somebody's arm.
Well, like, I only did that when he tried to grab my purse, nigga. No, that's not how it works. Like,
Yeah.
I will cut you.
Exactly.
Like-
I will cut you with my mouth, with my teeth.
Like, it was instinct. I didn't even know what was happening. He just grabbed my bag and he pulled it. I just, like, used the momentum to go as fast as I could to his arm. And he just, like, and I look up at him and he's like,
He's probably shaking his arm.
he was just like looking at me, and I like looked up at him, and he just let go, and I like sat on the ground holding my bag, like, no.
Huddle in for your granddad. Wow. What a warrior that you are, and you, Jason, and all of you guys. I mean, this entire story from start to climax to finish to now, like the epilogue, if you will, the fall and how you're moving forward, is just display of strength after display of strength, and just so beautiful to watch and see unfold. You guys are the quintessence of the human spirit in action, and I really commend you for having the strength to not give up in the face of that. Because
I appreciate that.
'cause I
almost did repeatedly.
I know, and I almost did over stuff way less.
Yeah,
than
I was like, at certain points, I was just like, fuck this. How do you get out of this situation? Like, how do you come up from here? Like, fuck. And then I was just like, well, I'm technically too afraid to kill myself, so I guess I'll just have to figure it out.
So I just have to resign.
I
to
just
being
have
too
to
much.
figure this out. And then, I mean, eventually I started to figure it out, and I was like, oh, okay. Nothing's so good. Weird.
I never thought this would be possible.
Yeah, I was just like, it was just like things went from like a fucking hard struggle to pretty fucking good. And like my biggest struggle in the last 6 months has really been like taking the time to appreciate what I do have and what I'm building. Like, I'm so busy trying to hustle and build my future that I sometimes forget to enjoy, the things that I have right now.
Like your dog.
Like my dog. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of the touristing. I went and saw the butterflies, and I've just been going around, and I've just been seeing shit that, like, doing the tourist thing and having fun, but it's just like, man, it's worth it. I've had more fun this past year than I had in my first 3 years in Mexico, because all I did was work. I just fucking worked, and then I did Acapulco, and then I really fucking worked, and it was like, I had no time for anything. And then that was the one thing, like, I got all of this, was the fresh start was so brutal and forceful, but somehow refreshing, because I had no responsibilities. I went from having a farm to having no responsibilities, and I was dealing with the murder, and I had to take care of, like, keeping myself out of danger, but I had nothing else that I had to do other than figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And there was, like, an odd sort of beauty in that.
Yeah.
But, like... So, I just took it as a chance. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to try and live my life, be as happy as I can, figure out what I need to be happy, what I want out of life, and fucking go for it. And then, like, I figured it out, and I was like, everything from, like, for example, dating. Like, I determined what I wanted in a partner. I was like, all right, that doesn't exist. That's cool, though. I got to be cool with being alone, because that doesn't exist, and I'm not interested in settling. And then, like, what I was looking for essentially fell into my lap. I found it on the side of a mountain, and I was like, okay, well, maybe life doesn't suck so bad. And then, like, yeah, he gave me the dog, and then I was just like, well, life is fun now. And then it just got better and better from there. And
That's a beautiful story.
yeah.
That's a beautiful story about no matter how much of
Yeah.
darkness you find in the valley of death in your life, that if you do continue forward, there might even be a greater
Well,
light.
yeah, that is the thing that I'm surprised about, because, like, I mean, I miss my dog, but the dog I got now is a badass. He's just, like, he's an old dog in a young dog's body, like, and he's just the sweetest puppy, and he, you know, I need a hug, and he's right there in my face, like, so good with everybody. The worst thing about him is he runs up on kids and scares the fuck out of them. Because he's so huge, and he just runs up, like, aggressively, like, I'm gonna get you. And he tackles them, and he gives them love, but, like, yeah.
Yeah, they think they're going to die.
It's a little bit much. Yeah, I feel so bad when it happens. Because you just see a kid on the beach, like, ah! And Renegade's like,
Renegade's got a nickname right now. It's official. It's called Gravedigger.
yeah, Renegade's now called the Gravedigger because his favorite thing to do is dig.
The grave digger.
And he'll dig. He digs graves. Like, I've never had a dog quite like him. He's very special. And then, like, I mean, my life before was pretty exciting, but my life before was extremely hard. Like, I mean, it's worth acknowledging the fact that my honestly, living with John Galton was really fucking hard. Like, he was brilliant, but he was really fucking hard to live with. It was, you know, at points it was awful, but I stayed around for my own personal reasons. But, like, now my life now and my relationship dynamic now is completely different than what I was dealing with then. And that's in a lot of ways what made life worth living, is I didn't have to worry about, I mean, as bad as it is to say, John's reaction to things. Because he would have, like, if somebody had shot up our house and didn't succeed in killing him, dealing with that and him post that would have been
A nightmare?
unbearable.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how we come to these very, very strange conclusions that we would never thought we would come to in retrospect, huh? About certain situations.
Well, like, I've just tried to be really honest with myself about this, because that was the one thing that, like, the big theme of my relationship with John in the beginning is he was just trying to get me be honest about my life, everything from my relationship with my family to my feelings about college to all of it. Like, he was always about the honesty. And when we wrote the story, sometimes he'd be like, that's not honest enough. He'd be like, that's not, you know, include this in there. And sometimes it was like, include a fight that he and I had in the desert. He like, you need to make it what it was. So, like, ever since he's died, a lot of people, when people die, they're like, oh, he was a great man and he was perfect. No, he wasn't. He was... A sentence I've heard a lot this month is, John was an asshole, but... And then it was generally followed by something nice, like, but he was fucking brilliant, but, you know, he had a heart of gold. Because that was the thing, was, like, he could be an asshole, but he was only an asshole to the people he really cared about, and it was only because he really fucking cared about them. But it was, like, he needed to find better ways to communicate shit, and he hadn't at that point. So, like, that's a big part of why Paul was so mad at him, is because he, you know, he criticized the wrong human being, and, well, it got him killed. I mean, my life, like, with him, it had its great points. It had its incredible aspects to it. We had that incredible journey. We had a great relationship in some regards, but it was also a really hard to deal with relationship. And, like, everybody, I grew up my whole life being like, love is a struggle, love's a fight. You gotta fight for what you love. But, like, that's only true in a certain sense. If the love is really always a fight, it's not love, it's a fight.
Yeah.
But, like, if the love is so good that you would fight for it if you had to, that's a different story. And I didn't know the difference between those two things until this year.
Wow, so that seems like an incredible lesson.
Yeah, it was basically a determination. Like, John died, and I was like, how do I make that not happen again? All of that. I want all of that to not fucking happen again. Like,
That's the approach to take, though. That is the approach to take.
And that's what I did, and eventually I got through it, and now I'm to a point to where, like, I'm doing all this. I fucking agreed to speak at Acapulco, and it's like, all right.
Yeah, you're all stressed out about it now.
Yeah, I'm all stressed out about it. And I'm like, I got 2 speeches, and it's like, oh, why did I do this? But it's great to be here, because I've already seen people, like, today I saw somebody, first Acapulco I went to, I met him, and I became friends with him. And he came to us the second Acapulco we were there, and he said, it's great to see you guys are still here. I was worried about you. And I would sit there and talk to him for hours. And today he came up and he gave me these 2 rings. This one's the important one. It says it's a John Galt like silver coin that he turned into a ring, and it says John Galt, and then it says on the inside, money is the root of all good. And he just gave that to me. So you have little moments like this. It's John Galt. It's way too big for me to ever wear, but it's beautiful, and it's an amazing gift. Like that's the kind of stuff that
And this was pressed out of a coin?
It was just pressed out of a coin. He said he cut a hole in the middle, and then he like folded the halves over, so like it's kind of like folded over and doubled over. You can see it a little bit there.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking dope.
That's
so
really
like,
kind.
So I built an ANFAM basically, and like last year I really figured out who was actually ANFAM and who was just there, and there for the good times. And holy shit, now I'm scared of you because things are bad, because there were a couple of people that are like, I'm afraid to be around you, you're a security risk, and I was like, man.
I would recommend all people show courage in those situations and support those people, especially in those situations.
I'll always remember the people that were like, yeah, come over to my house, yeah, here, come, let's do something fun, like.
Shout out to Michael.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. That's an incredible story, Lily.
Yeah.
Do you have any other details or anything from it that you want to share, any other insights you want to leave people with?
Yeah, life's too short to not follow your dreams. You don't want to be like 40 and old and be like with the long list of what ifs. The one.
Oh, you just insulted half the room here.
Well, the one thing I've learned is like I have a lot. I have a lot of regrets here and there, but like the one regret I don't have is like I've tried a lot of shit. Like even the dreadlocks. The dreadlocks, hard regret. But, like, I learned a lot, and I don't have the what if of, I always wanted dreadlocks.
Why did you, for real quick aside, why didn't you like dreadlocks?
Hard to sleep with, honestly. Like, they got in the way of cuddles, so that was annoying. They were just, like, imagine having a pillow attached to your head at all times, and then, like, it was sleeping on a pile of ropes. They pulled all the time. They were heavy. And then when I went to brush them out, they were filled with dirt, dog hair, and sand from Acapulco, and I had been gone from Acapulco for 5 months, and it was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is awful. It took me 2 months to brush out my hair, and it was worth it though. Like, but I don't have what ifs, I'm not like, I have a lot of friends that I've reached out to back home, and they're all like in the same town doing the same thing, and I'm over here and I'm like, my life is crazy, but damn, I lived. Like, I'm about to be 27 on the 18th, but damn, like, I lived, like, already.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm. It can only get better. It's only going to get better from here.
You look full and vibrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did notice. You look
I feel
great.
very different. I
You
feel
look great.
very different.
That means you have dreadlocks.
That means a lot, because they were awful. Oh my god, like, and then as I was doing it, I was just seeing my real hair come out, and I was just like, it was like, the best metaphor I can think is like putting carpet or linoleum over hardwood floors.
Ugh.
Like, why? Like, what's the point? Like, it was already beautiful, why? So I was just like, all right, fuck this. Yeah. It was worth it. It was so much fucking work.
And the point is that even if it wasn't ultimately what you wanted, it taught you something.
So much, all of this taught me something. All of this taught me how to, just keep going regardless.
And how to transcend no matter what happens to you, no matter what's inflicted on you.
Yep.
That's the warrior's path, the way of the sage. And you quite seem to me that you're on that path based on how much strength you displayed over this past year.
Yeah, I'm even a little surprised at my own strength, because when it all happened, I was just like, I'm done for. This is it. I'm fucked. I am fucked. And then, as time went on, it was just like, okay, I'm still okay somehow. I'm still okay. And now I'm just to the point to where I just look back at the last year, and I'm like, what in the hell happened? Like, how did I get through all of that? Part of it, it's friends. Like, for example, Thaddeus Russell sat there and texted me all day, every day for 4 months straight until he found me a therapist personally to take over the job.
God bless him.
We talked so much that broke up with his girlfriend partially because like he was talking to me so much. She's like, who the fuck is this Lily? And he's like, only my best friend. And she's just like, well, she's lucky to have you. And he's like, well, I'm lucky to have her. And we were, and like, yeah, it was, but like, he was there for me. That was such a huge thing with Thad being there. Cause like, I would message Thad and I'd be having a breakdown and he'd be like, you need a therapist. I'm here for you. You're going to be fine. And then that was it. Like, he was just, you know, he was a big part of it. And then I just kept, you know, encountering good people that were, you know, extremely good for me. Like, I'm lucky to have a partner in my life now that, like, he knows my past. He asks me questions still constantly. We always talk about, he'll ask me questions about John. He'll ask me questions about what happened. He'll ask me questions. That was actually how he got me to trust him, was on our first date. We were walking around and he was like, well, do you still mourn for your boyfriend? And I was like, well, I'm always going to mourn from him because it fucking sucks. But if you're asking if I miss him, no. I don't miss living with him. Like, I fully wish that we would have broken up so he could have gone, because he would have made a Mexican girl very happy. Like, honestly, he would have. So, like, I wish we would have broken up. He would have gone, found his girlfriend. I found my love and happiness. I would sleep so much better at night knowing that he's out there living it up than to know that he's dead, you know? And he was a dick to me, and he was fucking mean at certain points in the relationship, but he never deserved that.
No one does.
It was just like, no, he deserved to just go off and figure it out with somebody else, but, you know, it's just one of those situations that we thought we were stuck together because of our circumstances.
I see.
So we stayed together for extra years because, well, we were on the run together, and then we became John and Lily, and it was like, well, now we're John and Lily, and it's like, and, well, being single in the Liberty community as a woman can be a little
daunting, to say the least.
It can be a little weird. Like, I was, yeah. As Henza, I was like, I'm not dating any Americans. I'm not dating any, like, I was very strict from the beginning because I was just like, I'm just done with all of that.
Well, I'm really glad that things have seemed to...
We're the only two females here, and I think
it's a sausage fest. Yeah. I mean, like, it's great, and, like, you know, like, it's most of the guys here are too awkward, but, like, I see the looks. I see it.
Or here in Acapulco?
Both.
Okay.
Well, like, here in the community. So here in the
I don't know this community, so you got me on that one.
Yeah, in the community, like, they're pretty awkward. Like, they're the type of guys that are like, I would like to have a wife one day, but they stay in their house for, like, weeks on end. You know, like, it's like, you got to get out of your house. You got to go out and you got to experience Acapulco, Mexico. Like, shit, dude.
You got to live. You
got to live. Like, that's the thing is, the one thing is I have very little sympathy for people that are like, oh, I don't want to live anymore. And it's like, dude, anybody can fix any situation if I can fix my situation.
That is the most beautiful way to...
And I'll tell people that. And then they'll just, oh, but it's so hard. Like my little brother. My little brother struggles with a lot of the same shit that I saw. I saw my mom die and everything. So he's got similar problems. Sometimes he's just like, I need you, sis. I need you. And I'm like, dude, you got to learn, you know? Like...
How old is he?
He's 18. 18 and fresh out of the system, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Oh goodness, God bless. He's gonna have a nice 10 years ahead of him.
He has a role model.
Yeah, he has me, and like when he messages me freaking out, I'm just like, you're not broken. You're gonna get through this. Life will get better. Go to sleep and chill the fuck out. And that's what I always say now. Like, yeah, he knows that's what I'm gonna say, so he's kind of stopped asking, but he is kind of figuring it out a little more. Like, it's just a fucking process of figuring it out. Like, and yeah, sometimes it's just like, fuck it, I'm giving up. This is it. But
then you move past those moments of weakness. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Usually, like, literally how I solve it, if I'm really into that, like, I'm just gonna give up on everything phase. I just go to sleep and I hope for the best waking up later. Like, and, like, most of the time it works. Like, at the time, like, 10 years ago when I started going through all this stuff, like, it didn't seem like it was gonna, like, I didn't seem like I was ever gonna get anywhere where I want to be. And then, like, a couple months ago, I was just doing an actual assessment of where I am and everything, and I'm like, doing surprisingly well. Okay, all that hard work, that means something. Like, you gotta, that was something my brother was like, oh, I made a choice to be a good person, and I fucked up today, oh, I'm an awful person, because he's having struggles with drugs because they fucking drugged him as a baby for ADHD, and no wondered why he has a drug problem now. And I'm just like, no, like, it's just a part of your growth. Like, you can stop again now, and it's another day, and you just take the time. Yeah, it's... The whole United States is like that. It's fucking sad. Like, I don't know how people deal with that on a constant basis. I feel bad for everybody who has to go back.
They take drugs.
They take drugs. You're right. They take drugs.
It's a shame. So I guess people at home, we need to start figuring out a better way than just sedating ourselves to come up with solutions to these mental, emotional, and spiritual problems.
Well, it just starts with figuring out what the fuck you love and then actually trying to do it, you know? Like,
Yeah.
because that's the root of all of it. Like, the root of all this unhappiness is because so-and-so isn't doing what they wanted to do with their life because, you know, XYZ reason. Like,
All bullshit. All those reasons
so
bullshit.
much suffering in the world is just because people are discouraged from doing what they want with their lives. Like, you can make a way to make shit happen and hustle no matter who you are, no matter what you want to do. And that's something I've learned is like, you can make money hustling even without banks. Like, I can't use banks. Still hustle, still make money. Like, cryptocurrency, get paid exclusively in Bitcoin for my 10 jobs. But, I mean, fuck, like, I talked to my sister, and she still works at McDonald's. She's in her 30s. She still works at McDonald's. I love her to death. But she sees me, and I send her, like, spamming, like, oh, I just went to this place, or oh, I just did this thing. And she's just like, man, your life is a lot more fun, you know? She'll be like, what are you doing? I'll be like, oh, I'm working on this job, or no, I'm working on this job. And she's just like, man, I wish I would have did what you did. She had kids instead. So she lives vicariously through me, and like, I just see too many people out there with what ifs. Like, fucking go for it, people, and like do shit. Like that's the one thing. Is like a lot of people have what ifs because they're afraid of putting in the work to get things done. Once you actually get started on the work, it becomes a lot of fun. Like my life, I spend all day working. I don't get days off. I don't do days off. But my life is great. I've got no complaints about my life, despite the fact that at some point every day I got to sit down and do work, which is all good jobs. Like I work editing Liberty, like audiobooks and podcasts, and fuck, I have a fun time with what I do, and I make money for it.
Retired already, which is awesome.
It kind of feels like it because I just wake up.
That's success, to say the least.
Yeah, I just wake up in the morning and I'm like, all right, well, I could just lay in bed. Like, I wake up at sunrise, but I lay in bed till like 10 most days just because my life's good.
Awesome.
Generally, we're having good conversations, and then it's like, okay, now I go start and I do my work, and I work all day, and then, like...
Awesome.
And you do what you want.
I do what I want. Like, if I want to just get up and go on a mountain hike, I drop what I do, and I get up and I go on the mountain hike.
And that's freedom. If you can stop whatever you're doing and just go hike up a mountain, that's what freedom
people
is.
that live right on a mountain.
Yeah.
Or hike down it. Wow. Well, Lily, you're an inspiration to everyone in this community, and even more so just to people in general for your strength and your tenacity and your ability to never give up and to show people that no matter what happens, there's always another sunrise, you know?
Yeah, you can always take control of your story and do what the fuck you want with it. Because I thought I was fucked. I thought I was so fucked. And I was like, no. Like, I've been lucid dreaming since I was a kid, and I first realized I was lucid dreaming because I was like, my childhood autistic brain was like, this dream, or this doesn't make sense, this must be a dream. And then all of a sudden I was conscious in it.
Yeah.
And then I was able to control the dreams to make them turn out how I wanted.
That's fun.
It's
That's a fun game.
I mean, it's the same thing in life. You just have to envision what you want and, like, make it happen and just focus on it. And, I mean, there was years where I was like, nope, the hard work doesn't pay off. You know, I worked for, like, you know, I lost things repeatedly in my relationship with John. just from robbing and police and everything. But no, eventually, after a long while, it does pay off, and you start to get happier, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, hey, this is the lifestyle I want to live. What do I want to do today? What job do I want to work first? Oh, I don't want to do jobs today. Okay, I can do whatever I want, and nobody gives a shit.
And you're how old? I'm sorry. Did you say like 65, 70?
I'll be 27 in a week. Yeah.
Must be nice to be you.
I mean,
Like
sometimes.
It took me like at least twice as long to get somewhere.
Yeah, sometimes, like, I look at that aspect and I'm like, yeah, it's fun to me. On other aspects, I'm like, not that fun to be me. It's kind of a toss-up. Some
grass
days,
is always greener.
When you're 41,
yeah.
tell me what you have to say about it now, about how you're feeling right now. Because,
Yeah.
wow. If I could have been where you're at right now, when I was 27,
Yeah.
rather than
It'll be
getting there, maybe close somewhere to there at 41.
Yeah, with that with that in mind, it'll be interesting to see where I do like end up, cause
no
like,
idea.
I mean, I'm writing a book, and then there's Stateless, and that's going to spread the story far and wide. And that's like my goal is to spread the story, and then to use the money from spreading the story to get myself legal, and then to just do whatever the fuck I want for the rest of my life.
Whoa. Did you just say legal?
Legal. So I would be paying a lawyer
She said the L
essentially
word.
to get my charges dropped, because I'm tired of being on the run. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's
like,
dead.
And that was actually kind of a trap, I think. But they worded it that way on the website. But Stateless went and they're like, well, since it's closed, can we interview? And they're like, that's a case that's still open. She needs to come back here and turn herself in before before we'll do an interview. And I was like, all right.
That sounds like a trap.
Yeah, well, I mean, but the way you said it made it sound like I'd have to go back, you know. So I was like, all right, well, I'm not going back unless I have to. And I mean,
But
fuck.
do you want to?
No. I want to get legal so that way I can stay in Mexico and never have to worry about deportation.
But they care about your legal status there. They haven't cared
Well,
about
like
mine.
I don't have a visa.
Okay, but there's ways you can get one.
I'm gonna go about it. That's the thing. I'm either gonna get legal through like corruption means, or I'm gonna go and get really.
Friend of mine that, you know, could get you a visa.
That would be great.
Would you like to get married?
I mean, that's a little bit much.
Well, I'm telling you right now, it works, but.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll get in touch.
I love
on
these
that.
anarchist conferences. It's like, yo, I can get you legal. All you gotta do is one marriage. That's all it takes.
I know I'm not on the podcast, and I appreciate, you know, I'm recording this, but I'm going to definitely discuss it with Mike before anything happens. This is not live.
Yeah.
And you guys are, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're live. Yeah, I think so. Maybe.
I've been like nagging Mike for a Q&A all night, and I've been also with Jason.
Yeah.
Well, no, Henza. Yeah, most of the night, but I don't know much about your story. But I have to say, I almost turned off my camera when you said you're trying to get legal. I mean, I thought, what the fuck does this have to do with this whole experience?
It's one of those things where they all know where, like, the people that want me, they know where I'm at. They know it's expensive to come get me. And, like, yeah, the only way they're going to end up getting their way is if I get deported. And that could happen accidentally, you know?
No,
So
it could happen very easily. I've been deported. I know this.
I don't want to be deported. I'm good on that.
I understand, definitely. But it's not
Yeah.
going to happen because you ever. Well, this is maybe a discussion for another place, but I don't know. I just blows my mind, and I'll just shut up now. But
There's options. Yeah, there's options.
no,
I mean-
yeah, the fact that even the need to be legal comes in your mind with the experience that I'm having right now, it just blows my mind, actually.
Well, like, I mean, I've lived this way for 4 years, and, like, I've lived without banks for longer, and, like, dude, my lifestyle, it's got its exciting parts, it's got its fun parts, but fuck, it's hard. Like, I gotta think of things that most people don't. Like, I was terrified to come to Anarchapulco, honestly, because, like, paranoid fear, they're coming to get me and arrest me while I'm on stage, you know? I would hope people would swarm them and be like,
Don't
no.
go over that border because here you're probably safe. I'm thinking.
I'm good.
But you go over that border.
No
and
thanks.
Because if you're thinking there's a trap somewhere, it's not gonna come for you here if it hasn't already.
It's gonna be up there.
But when you go over there.
Yeah, no fucking thanks. I'm good. Like, I don't want to go back. I want to see the rest of the world, and I want to be able to stay in Mexico without
Yes.
having to worry.
Right on. So we should talk.
Amen to that.
Because, I'm working on getting my home base. So
Awesome,
I can go back
awesome.
there to be able to go elsewhere.
It's just life's here is too good, and like my dad, like when I first talked to him, he's so I gotta come there, huh? And I was like, yep, I'm not leaving, not unless they make me. So far they haven't made me, so I'm lucky, and I just like. I live every day with a sort of like it could all end right now dramatically mindset, so I try to enjoy my life, and that includes everything from like, my diet to choosing to have fun instead of work extra hard. Like,
yeah, amen to that.
I mean, like, there's a balance between like I could get deported tomorrow, I could die in a stupid fucking accident tomorrow, and like you just gotta like weigh that stuff when you make decisions. Like, is this experience really going to enhance my life? Possibly. Well, maybe I should, take some risk, take some time off, spend some money.
And take a chance, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the lesson I learned from John's dad. It's like it happened so fast.
A lot of people learn that. A lot of people were like faced by their mortality, and they're like, wait, I'm not living my lives. Like it especially his family, like that was inspiring. His family was his Nana, for example. I love Nana. Nana's my Nana now too. But it was a step grandma, and she loved his grandpa, and his grandpa died in the time that John and I were together. And she just mourned him for 4 years, and it seemed like she was never going to move on. And then John died, and she was like, I got to start living my life. And she came back to Mexico and saw me in November for Day of the Dead. And by that point, she had found a new love also. And she was basically like, this is our time to start moving on with our own lives and living our own lives. And
With you as part of the family.
yeah, she's my Nana. And like, she was adopted herself, and she says she hit the parent lottery, so she got like lucky with her parents. And so she always had like the, family is function, it's not blood. And that was the thing I always appreciated about, Nana. And yeah, that's how I ended, like, I've been just collecting these people that aren't actually related to me that are my family over the last year. Like, I'm going to have a photo taken with my 3 dads when my dad gets here. There'll be my crypto dad, my Mexican dad, and then my real dad. My real dad does not know yet that there are 2 other dads. So he'll find that out tomorrow.
He's super butthurt about that one. That's great.
Well, he's gonna get it. I think he's just gonna be grateful because he's gonna meet Doug, and he's gonna meet Goose, who's my Mexican dad, and he's gonna be like, thanks for taking care of my daughter when I couldn't.
Amen to that. I couldn't agree with that sentiment more. Jesus Christ, Lily, what an incredible story. Thank you for sharing. Can we get a round of applause for this amazing human being? For real.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really incredible. Well, thanks for tuning in. I don't know if we're going to top that one, but thanks, man. We'll be back tomorrow. See you guys later.
Check, 1, 2. All right, let's crash this motherfucker. Can someone go into the event and turn off the music? Anyone?
Someone please, Sonny, go.
All right, let's go. All right, listen up. So, all you gotta do is wave your arms uncontrollably and smile at everybody in the place, okay? Don't put that speaker in the freaking... All right, let's go.
Bring them out, bring them out, bring them out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out.
VIP, come alive in the VIP. Heard the nightlife, lost life, what I did. When the state was my need, the whole city got reserved. He got 3 ups, a nigga got a hip and shout, he not out. Who said the city on fire soon as he got free? The king back now. Hold on, you know how to act now. Little strippers getting naked, boys back down. Still ballin', money stacks all the shack now. Still push a button and let them on the back down. I'm on the road doing shows through my back down. Mississippi to Albuquerque to Chat Town. Got the crowd yelling. I got rich and I'm still on some hooligan shit. You be rapping by flow, I was moving the shit. Talk about shooting out, now we're doing the shit. shit. And if I catch another case, I know it truly be missed. So I'ma
Pardon our interruption. We will now leave the premise.